Wakey, good morning and many thanks indeed for joining us on People and Politics here on M Live. Of course, we know what is going on the BBI bandwagon, where the Building Bridges initiative has reached a critical moment as critics join hands with proponents to push for its actualization. Mombasa's meeting was a turning point as to while hard-hitting critics, politicians associated with Deputy President William Ruto made an about-turn and declared the support for the initiative. On the first of it, that is a major victory for the BBI proponents. But that is why the matter ought to be critically evaluated to determine the viability of the proposals contained in the report. Contrary to earlier concerns that the Mombasa rally could turn chaotic, as critics and proponents were set to share the platform for the first time since the BBI public sensitization rallies began, the gathering was peaceful. That's how it should be. Political differences should not translate to hatred or enmity. Proponents and critics shared the same platform and both endorsed proposals contained in the BBI report that, among others, seek to expand the executive to create new positions such as Prime Minister, as well have a flexible structure that facilitates inclusivity. Significantly, the meeting unanimously supported proposals for the referendum on the BBI proposal. And of course, we're keeping an eye on what was happening in Naivasha. Our guests you've seen, though, they're already in studio with us this morning just to tell us more on what really transpired in that particular meeting. Over 150 members of parliament allied to Deputy President William Ruto have resolved to start organizing and hosting their own Building Bridges initiative consultative meetings. The legislators who met in Naivasha also agreed to mobilize resources for printing of proposals to the BBI for public consumption. Seth Olale has more on this.
In what was seen as an attempt to display unity and might within the Deputy President's camp, over 100 members of parliament converged in Naivasha to counter Raila Odinga's led Building Bridges Initiative consultative public forums. The group, which arrived Sunday evening, held a closed-door meeting late night and Monday morning before announcing its resolutions.
The discussions have mainly been on personalities and positions of the political class. This is stark contrast to the original objectives of the course.
It is for this reason that the MPs allied to the Deputy President have announced organizing and hosting their own Building Bridges Initiative consultative meetings, with the first one slated next week Saturday in Nakuru County.
For us, for every rally we will organize, we will make sure that every shade of opinion and every leader from different political parties and every place will not only speak, but they will have also a right to speak their mind without being forced to sing a particular recital before you can say your point. So everybody...
President Uhuru Kenyatta, Deputy President William Ruto, and ODM leader Raila Odinga are among guests invited to attend the Nakuru Public Forum.
We are a very big group. We split. The same thing. We want to tell Kenyans the same thing. So if you go east and I go west and we are preaching the same gospel, it reaches Christ quickly.
The group, which is also seeking a closed-door audience with the BBI task force, has pledged to individually fund the scheduled meetings, as well as print out written proposals to be distributed to the public.
We want the people to come and speak to us what is ailing them down there in the village. So we will be listening to Mama Mboga, we will be listening to border riders, we will be listening to everyone and see how we can have a document that is going to be people-based.
The legislators also want farmers and university graduates allocated 5% of the national revenue, with the judiciary getting 3.5%.
Kuna matatizo kubwa ya wawajiri, watoto wetu, vijana wetu.
Launching the BBI.
The group, which wants the BBI task force release its own public forum schedule, stated that it will frequently hold such gatherings to plan for upcoming BBI forums, even as Jubilee Party's Secretary General Ruto and Tuju, through a statement, clarified that the Naivasha retreat was not a parliamentary group meeting. The next Building Bridges Initiative consultative meeting heads to Kitui County this weekend before being hosted next week in Nakuru County as scheduled by organizers.
Seth Olale, NTV, Naivasha.
And on the day, the Building Bridges Initiative Task Force was holding its first meeting since gazettement. The U.S. ambassador to Kenya, Kyle McCarter, is cautioning against the hijacking of the BBI debate by politicians. The task force is to strategize on how views will be collected countrywide, discounting assertions by a section of MPs allied to opposition leader Raila Odinga that the program is sanctioned by the team.
As the Building Bridges Initiative Steering Committee settles down after having its first meeting since its gazettement, it is faced with the task of providing directions to Kenyans on the way forward with implementation of the document it presented in November last year. The committee chose to stick to the previous chairperson, Yusuf Haji, for the sake of continuity.
We are now in the process of working on our program, which we shall release to Kenyans so that they can participate fully in whatever the steering committee is supposed to be doing.
It is expected that the team will again meet Tuesday to give a comprehensive report on how BBI-2, as it has been christened by politicians, will take off, or how the BBI report they released will be implemented. It is understood the team will also release a timetable for the second round of collecting views.
No one can stop reggae.
Opposition leader Raila Odinga and a host of politicians allied to his cause have been traversing the country for meetings funded by the state, clustering them into regions where locals have been giving a set of recommendations to be incorporated in the BBI-2 document.
The culmination of us going around and making sure that the views are heard, for us as politicians, we are only coming towards the tail end. And I believe even the politicians will be given an opportunity to even air their views.
Nobody will be going to be attending Tanga meetings that the aim is just 2022 elections. And the president told us very clearly he does not want politics now.
The BBI Steering Committee is confirming it has not yet drawn a program, and politicians appear to have largely taken over its role.
I don't think BBI should be hijacked by politics or politicians. But I think you have the commitment from the governor that this is going to be a conversation that the people understand what is in it, and the people can decide if that's what's best for the future of Kenya.
These sentiments also come at a time opposition to a proposal by governors to have a third tier of government intensify.
We insist, and we have said that the BBI report as launched in Bomas is a report we know, and I didn't see a third tier government in that report.
If we can deal with the corruption, there is no harm in creating regional governance, regional government. But there's no guarantee that if you are a governor serving in second term, and if that position is created, you will get it.
There are those of the view that the move is being pushed by second-time governors and the entire Council of Governors as a precondition for supporting the BBI. Kennedy Muredi, NTV.
Now, ODM leader Raila Odinga called into question the source of Deputy President William Ruto's wealth alongside his values. The opposition leader, in an exclusive interview with NTV, says he differs with the DP on values he holds dear, including his honesty, I should say. This is after Deputy President William Ruto claimed that he was in the know about the handshake before it materialized. NTV's Brenda Wanga has more on this.
No, they're saying that Raila Odinga is so rich, very, very rich, which is not true. Okay?
How rich are you?
I think about 2 billion shillings.
2 million? 2 billion?
Yes.
His net worth wasn't the only thing that opposition leader Raila Odinga opened up about during his exclusive interview with NTV. He was also candid about the reasons behind the differences between him and Deputy President William Ruto.
The issues are that there are certain things that is done or it does that are basically contrary to what I think would be the correct ways of doing things.
Raila singling out the Deputy President's church philanthropy.
And he's running around every weekend donating money whose sources are dubious. In my view, this is corrupting the political process. What is the source of the money that he's donating?
But that wasn't the only bone Raila had to pick with Ruto. Last week, in another exclusive interview with NTV, Deputy President William Ruto claims to have known about and participated in the early stages of the handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga.
Even before the Honorable Raila reached out to Uhuru Kenyatta, he reached out to me.
But Raila now says the opposite is true.
That is very unethical. Because, I mean, why would I even call Ruto? I never called Uhuru. Why would I call Ruto? I never did. So that I can swear, I never talked to William Ruto.
The resultant Building Bridges initiative that was birthed after the handshake has further widened the rift between the DP and Raila, with Raila facing accusations of carving out a position for himself in the executive through this initiative. He denies these allegations.
You don't have to be the president of Kenya. What we need is to fix what you call the Kenyan problem so that we can have a united country.
BBI matters aside, the opposition leader says he is supportive of the calls for reforms in the judiciary.
I've told them, but they also require reforms to be able to deal with these cases speedily, and also to ensure that there are some convictions. Because right now there are so many of these cases pending before the judiciary. There are no convictions.
Raila also defended himself against allegations that he has wormed his way into government, maintaining that he is working with the president for the benefit of all Kenyans, for now and for the future.
Sad to say, I'm on my way.
Brenda Wanga, NTV.
For many days, my head is down, my head is turning around.
Right, you're watching People and Politics. Hit us on Twitter. AM Live NTV is a Twitter handle. AM Live NTV is our profile name on Facebook. And 20686 is our SMS portal. For now, I want to introduce our panelists who are already here. Kimani Mwatangi, who is the Senator of Kiambu. Also, we do have with us former Senator of Kakamega. This is Boni Khalwale. We do have with us as well this morning Jacob Medio, who is a former Member of Parliament for Game. Aaron Chiriot, Senator for Kericho County. Also do have with us Senate. This is a Member of Parliament for Tongaren. This is Dr. Esele Simiu, and also Dr. Otiene Molo, who is the Member of Parliament for Rarieda. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hakuna kahawa, sisikii kama watu wako na nguvu asubuhi ama nini? You're not taking your washes. Good to see you. Those stories that we've just highlighted also just set the tone for our conversation here on AM Live. You can drive the show with us, of course, using our platforms that we have just shared with you. AM Live NTV is a Twitter handle, AM Live NTV, our profile name on Facebook, and 20696, our SMS portal. But for now, we just want to delve deeper into the stories, and also we begin by looking at what is headlining the front pages of the dailies today. We begin with the Daily Nation. This is what is on the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. Revolt as Ruto group resolves to go it alone. That is what is on the front page of the Daily Nation, vowing that this is the beginning of the end between the two leaders. More than 100 MPs who support the Deputy President plot to bring Uhuru under pressure of a BBI campaign. And this story continues on page 4 of the Daily Nation. Faction sees Raila rallies as political suicide for DP, launch rival push. There is dissent there. And also still on the front page of the Daily Nation, Angelique Kidjo on top of the world. This Beninese singer-songwriter Angelique Kidjo won the Grammy Award for Best World Music Album for Celia during the 62nd Annual Grammy Awards in Los Angeles on Sunday. The story is well fleshed out for you on page 3 of the Daily Nation today. Also, Titus water wars. Farmers from Sugoi have grabbed all our waters, county claims, or farmer, I should say, farmer from Sugoi has grabbed all our water, county claims. This is the story on page 5 of the Daily Nation today. And also, when patients lose trust in hospital. The stories published by The Nation in the past 2 days about healthcare at a private hospital have elicited strong reactions, not just from medics, but more so Kenyans who tell of harrowing experiences in some hospitals. The bond of trust between doctors and patients is quickly getting eroded in the race by some private hospitals to make money. That story continues on page 4 of the Daily Nation. The Standard is up next. And this is what is on the front page of the Standard. Ruto Palace coup. 173 MPs defy party secretary to attend retreat organized by Deputy President's allies and vow to hold separate BBI rallies. Tuju disowns meeting says resolutions not binding. And this story is well fleshed out on page 6 of the Standard today. And also, ODM pushes for new power structure. This is what it says here on top there. Raila party declares support for regional government and powerful prime minister, saying these are the most popular proposals from the ongoing regional BBI meetings. This is well fleshed out for you on page 8 of the Standard today. And you can see this picture. Let me try and zoom in for you to see some of the legislators that were in Naivasha yesterday. This is, it says here, just read the captions, Jubilee MPs allied to Deputy President William Ruto addressing journalists at the end of a 2-day retreat in Naivasha yesterday. The legislators said they will hold separate rallies for ODM's regional forums to popularize the Building Bridges initiative among Kenyans. The first rally will be held in Nakuru on February the 8th, 2020. Checkmate. That's how it panned out yesterday. Also, a cyber story there. Kobe, daughter, and basketball passion that lived on to death, gone too soon. Like a father, the 13-year-old was prodigiously talented basketball player. With his help as her personal coach, Gianna hoped to become a professional at attending basketball games together. Was typically of their relationship, which was said to be very close. And of course, this is following the helicopter crash that saw the father and daughter dying there. The story is well fleshed out for you. Also, a special coverage on page 3, 39 and 40 of the Standard today. Let's move on to see what we have on the front page of the Star. I wanted to walk over there, but I just want to show you what we have on the front page there. Kenyatta meets DP Ruto for 5 hours of BBI. That is what we have on the front page of the Star this morning. Kenyatta meets DP Ruto for 5 hours of BBI. Face to face, it says. First time the two have had lengthy talks this year. Tanga MPs announced a series of their rallies. That is a story that you can follow also inside the Star this morning. And there is a standalone picture here. Like all times, it says President Kenyatta and DP William Ruto during the installation of AIC Bishop Abraham Mulwa in Milimani, Nairobi on Sunday. Also, Sarah gets nothing in Cohen Will. That is another story you can follow inside the Star. People Daily is up next, and this is what is holding for us today on the front page of the People Daily. Kenyan students stuck in virus hit Chinese province. This is all about the outbreak there. The disease has claimed 81 and infected more than 3,000. The story continues on page 2 of the People Daily. Also, Ruto and Raila allies set to hold parallel rallies on BBI. Jubilee Secretary General Tuju disowns meeting by DP backers who declared party position on the document. The story is covered on page 7 of the People Daily this morning. Also, outpouring of grief for legend Kobe Bryant is another story you can follow also inside the People Daily. Page 3, 30 and 31 is where it is fully covered for you. Let me show you what we have on the front page of the Business Daily just briefly. Then we buckle down to our discussions with the panelists. And this is what is on the front page of the Business Daily this morning. Law loophole denies bank customers billions in relief, it says. That is what we have on the front page of the Business Daily this morning. Interest rates. Some banks are still charging 13% as they await interpretation of rule. That is what we have here. Also, courts earnings from fines hit 1.6 billion shillings. Another hotel goes under the hammer. Is a sidebar story there. And also inside, gone too soon. Kobe Bryant, sports star, celebrities pay tribute to basketball legend is on page 31 of the Business Daily. Also, half-year tax revenues hit 779 billion shillings. This is on the ticker. Today's digit is 1.2 trillion shillings. Amount of loss. A severe drought in Kenya caused in damages between 2008 and 2011. Also, EA or East African Cables faces liquidation over 285 million shillings loan. You can follow the story on page 7 of the Business Daily. Nairobi bows retreats after end-year rally is another story that continues on page 19 of the Business Daily this morning. Right, let's leave it at that for now. And I just want to show you also what we have on our editorial cartoons or editorial pages today, where we have the editorial cartoons there. So that is up with levity and laughter. What we have inside the Daily Nation today, and this is what that has been captured by Victor inside the Daily Nation today. Politicians taking over BBI. That's how it is today. And of course, you can see in the pot, many things are happening in that particular pot. So I'll leave it to, maybe I can just throw it to our panelists to begin with as we cover the Daily Nations, all the dailies today, the Daily Nation, the Standard, and other dailies together. Aaron Cheriot, looking at that particular editorial cartoon, do you think politicians have taken over the BBI as it is right now, going by what we had from the rallies or even yesterday from that particular meeting in Naivasha? What will be your assessment?
Well, good morning, Kenya, and the rest of the world who are watching us. I think your question is, have politicians taken over the BBI? And I think my answer will be, it has been about the politicians from the beginning. How can it not be about them when it was initiated by two leading politicians in the country? So they were in it from the beginning. Perhaps the further reflective question would be, are they taking it over for the good of Kenyans or for their own selfish gain? And that is a point of debate, and that's why some of us have hold different views on some of these issues. I think that's what was the essence of our meeting today. Meeting yesterday, for those who are like-minded in their thinking, that during this particular moment when you have this discussion, what is it that you can do to ensure that the discussions around the BBI are people-centric and not just about the big boys in the big cities, that it remains focused on what the young people in the villages, the elderly, what are their aspirations about the kind of country that they want. Therefore, it will be completely unfair if you wanted to lump all of us together and say all of you are just focused on creating this or that position, third tier of government, I don't know, prime minister, and all that. There are people who see it differently. And I think many such people were in Naivasha yesterday, and that was the center of our discussion together with our resolutions. So, but in a sense, the cartoon is right. If you follow through the deliberations that have gone and the discussions, or what has formed part of media focus, each and every time we've had this discussion. You know, unfortunately, you as media also do play a role in this, and you're equally as guilty as just as the politicians, much as you try to be innocent. Because if you go to a rally, say like what was in Mombasa, I saw many of the issues that the coastal people raised through their leaders, though yesterday I saw another press conference denying that some of the things that Governor Kingi added into their memorandum was not part of their discussions, especially on the thing to do with regional government. They say that's a private initiative of governors who, instead of minding their retirement, are focused on creating another layer of resting place. But largely, the coastal people spoke about issues that are dear to them, issues of land, issues of historical injustices, issues of security and the disappearance of young people in that particular region. But when you come to mainstream media, the 7 and 9 p.m. Bulletin, and even how you cover it in newspapers, that evening, it was about what Murkomen said, what this politician or that politician said, that has nothing to do with the needs of the people. Therefore, I think if it's about people who are making it actually to be just about us, the politicians, I think you guys in the media are even more guilty than the politicians themselves.
All right, let's hear from Dr. Eseli, your assessment. Let's begin from the cartoon.
I think...
the editorial cartoon?
Yeah, the cartoon, they are right. Politicians are taking over. Yes, the program was, the BBI was initiated by politicians. So I guess they feel that they have every right to perform. But I think it's premature. And in the process, they're tearing the country apart. I usually don't like pronouncements by foreign diplomats. But I think what Makata said, the ambassador from US, that we should actually let the committee drive the program, I think he was right, because he went on to say that there's a lot of deception, isolation, and intolerance by whoever is moving the BBI agenda now. I think we need to look at it very carefully, because when politicians take over with the vested interests as they are, then you start getting this intolerance, you start getting this what appears like deception, because you find that some meetings are arranged and you don't know who is arranging what and who is in charge of what. And when you try to find out, you are virtually sort of, you hit a brick wall. You have to find your own way. And then what amuses me most is that the meeting in Naivasha was actually a meeting of the people who did not participate in BBI 1. And then now they have realized it's taken off. They want to participate in BBI 2, but they also are putting conditions. So both groups, to me, are doing a disservice to this country, in the sense that we are creating. I don't know. Am I supposed to be answering Halwale, or because he doesn't seem to live in this country.
Okay, we'll come to you, but I just want a clarification, right?
BBI 1 was when the committee went around the first time. That's the report that we received in Bomas. Then they said that it's open again for further input, and that's now BBI 2.
That's what I wanted.
All right. Okay.
In good faith, my brother.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. So the people in Naivasha did not participate in BBI 1.
Thank you, Sally.
And now that they have realized, oh, it was a serious matter.
Thank you.
They are also jostling for space.
All right, thank you.
I think we are in a difficult situation now, because what we as politicians are doing, I don't think we are looking at the good of the country. Because I think as it goes on, we are polarizing the country even more as time goes on, and eventually it will not be good for us. That's my take on it.
Right, thank you. Let's hear from Otiene Molo.
First, let me talk about the cartoon and then about Naivasha.
All right.
I think the cartoon is interesting. I seem to be able to recognize most faces except the face right in the middle with the bald head.
With the bald head, I can see it.
Holding one big shoe. I really don't understand who that is or whose shoe that is. Obviously, it's a lady's shoe. But the rest of the faces are recognizable. You will see that my friend Murkomen has gone back to yellow together with the DP, as recent pictures usually depict, you know, and is being served something that is clearly not bitter, not sweet, because the DP is crying. You can see that they're depicting Raila as being one of the chief cooks, or the chief chef,
yes,
which is a proper depiction of this process. You can see that they're depicting the president, and I think that's Anne Waiguru, as contributing to the cooking, which I think is also largely true. I think they're depicting rather, you know, unfairly, I think, Kalonzo Musyoka with some watermelon. You know, when you're cooking soup, you don't put watermelon in the soup. Watermelon you take before, you know. So I don't know why they've chosen to do that.
But there's a trap there. What is it for? Is it for the watermelon? If you look,
it seems to be a rat trap. I don't know what a rat trap is doing in a place of serious cooking. But maybe there are rats to be trapped in this process. There are people who are pretending to be part of it, but they're actually just rats. So maybe that's what it's about. Let me come back to the question you've asked. Are politicians taking over? In my view, politicians are participating. They are not taking over, because they've always been part of it from the word go. This was an initiative by two leading politicians in this country for the future of the country. The team itself comprises of politicians. They are practicing politicians who are part of the BBI team. And at the end of the day, constitution making is as much a legal as it is a political process. So you can never accuse politicians of participating or taking over unless you do not want the process to succeed. Even when we come to referendum, even when we come to the actual changes, even if it was an amendment by parliamentary initiative, the politicians will participate. So the fact of politicians participating by itself is not wrong at all. Even my brother here, Dr. Selisimi, who is complaining, we were with him in Kakamega. If he thought that politicians have no business, then you should not even attend any of those meetings, whether it's Naivasha, whether it's Mombasa, whether it's Kakamega or Kisii. I think it is right for politicians to participate. So the question should be, what are they participating and doing? Is it building to the process? Is it constructive? For me, as long as the language is tempered, as long as it's non-violent, it is completely healthy to hold differing opinions and build the process together. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem, though, is, and I see Professor Manyora has even commented on it, there has been absolute confusion in the corner to which Dr. Halwale and my friend Aaron Chiriot belong. They have not made up their minds what they want. You know, they've been blowing hot and cold at every turn. As Dr. Selisimi says properly, when the process started, they gave it a wide berth. In fact, many of them swore they will not participate. Some even swore that the team will not appear in their counties. And so they largely ignored it. You remember in this show, me pleading with my colleagues that allow the process to continue, and even if you don't participate, await the product before you condemn it, because they're all condemning it. And they all swore that they will not go to Bomas. When then somehow they found wind that it was not so disastrous, they all trooped to Bomas, but with a different cry, that they were now not included. They couldn't have been properly included because they were Johnny-come-latelys. They couldn't have been part of the program. But then now at Bomas, they promised that they support the entire document and they will, you know, go with it. In fact, they wanted it to go through Parliament. They had not remembered that if you look carefully at the document, even as it is, without any changes, you would not go through a parliamentary initiative. You would require a referendum. An admission that finally, like my friend Murkomen made the other day in Mombasa. Now, having done that, and then our team, with other like-minded Kenyans, decided to do what the president had urged and the report urges, which is to share it and discuss it. When we started doing that, they said, no, that's a very bad idea. Where are you getting the money? Then when they realized it was going on, my friend Boni Halwale, for the second minute, decided to try something parallel. Something in Nabongo grounds, as the other one was going on in Buhungu Stadium. Not remembering that even that obviously needed some money, wherever that money was coming from. Let's just say that he was abandoned by all who had promised to appear with him, I think except two, including the Jubilee MPs in Kakamega. You know, some even there were stories that they had been kidnapped. And that was the end of that story. Nobody has ever come to tell us whether they were actually kidnapped and who kidnapped them and where they were taken, unless it was a friendly kidnap. Now, they then realized that that was not working. And then they now said they will join up and they will storm the Mombasa meeting, which for me is a good thing. You remember last Tuesday, I was urging that just like Mudavadi, just like Wetangula, I was hoping the DP and his team would see the sense of coming to join in the meetings. Shortly thereafter, they announced that they will appear in Mombasa. I didn't see either Aaron or Dr. Halwale, but Senator Murkomen, Susan Kihika, and a host of others actually did come. And when they came, contrary to what people were fearing, it was actually a very nice meeting. They were given the opportunity to speak. Murkomen recognized that we would require a referendum, supported the process. And for me now, I thought that we are now going to walk this together. But then I think somebody realized that even that was a mistake to add to the confusion. So they've retreated back. And in retreating back now, they've decided that they want to organize parallel meetings. For me, at the end of the day, personally, I see nothing wrong with any Kenyan anywhere organizing a meeting that is lawful, that is tempered in language, that is non-violent, to discuss what they believe is the content of the report or the adjustments that should be made.
Thank you. Just
it's only one thing. I think it is in absolute bad taste to have a situation where members of parliament, obviously at the call and beckon of the deputy president, should meet and basically declare support for the deputy president against the president. That should be the ultimate time when DP Ruto decides that now I'm going my own way, let me resign as deputy president.
Let's leave it at that. Let's hear from Kimani Matange. Good morning.
Morning, Dibal. Let me also take the opportunity to say good morning to our viewers. And Dibal, I don't know what we call this concoction that's being made here. You know, looking at the cartoon, do we call it soup? Is it broth? But it can't be porridge. It has got to, you know, the word broth probably would describe closer to what it might be. Because, I mean, if it comprises of watermelons, you know, and comprises of rat traps and shoes that have been worn. But curious enough or interesting enough is that even the makers of the soup, some of them are making it while inside the pot. You can see there, Murkomen and Raila actually inside the pot, starting from inside, and serving directly to the mouth of one who is purported to be the DP. So I believe it must be a very unhealthy concoction to begin with. But then, having said that, Dibal, I think the question that you asked whether politicians are taking over this process, fairly rightly and honestly, it is as close as what you said, in my view, because you know when this process was started, and if you look at the deliberate choice of the committee members themselves, it kept away largely from politicians, albeit there were a few, but largely it kept away from politicians because of fear of now what is happening, in my view, and it is important that we also let Kenyans know, and I have said that is my opinion, that we are now straight on to continuous campaign until the elections. It is unlikely that this is going to abate anytime soon, because see, this process is supposed to lead us to amendments of the law in the Constitution, either by a referendum and other means, as has been said. And so that requires continuous debate. The process as we have it right now, if it was going to be a toned down process, then maybe we would have had a more cool, quiet and sober environment to continue the service delivery that one would envisage would be required right now. But going by the momentum that this has taken off, the decisions that have been taken in between by different groups, that starts with the group that is in Mombasa, the original BBI, now the new group that met in Naivasha. Now this is going to be full-fledged. Rallies all over the country, absolute campaign, and I think Kenyans would need to brace themselves for that. So the questions would be, in my view, would holding parallel rallies for that matter, for the same purpose, the BBI, would it be helpful to the country? And I hardly would imagine that that is going to be very helpful. I'll tell you why. Just reflect back to our constitution-making process, just pre-2010, and all the conversation that was held in the country, different forums, different meetings, and the focus now slowly of the country converged absolutely to the constitution. And then until when we exhaled, when the document was finally launched. What we've done now is to manage to hijack the entire national psyche. And other matters of priority as we move on at this pace are going to take second place. And everybody now, if you go to Kiambu, if you go to Isiolo, if you go to Mandera, right now the talk in everybody's mouth, including the clerk in the office, including the governor, including the woman in the village, is about BBI. So the question would be, is this what we intended to have right now, or did we want to have a process that is going to be well regulated with those gentlemen who said yesterday, interesting enough, and it was aired on your channel, Dibal, that the BBI committee and team held its first meeting. But when they were holding their first meeting, there were how many other meetings that had been held? And so I'm bringing this to answer to your question in the affirmative. And I think politicians have deliberately taken it over. Maybe I would put this question to the Haji team. How will they eventually make sense of what is happening in all the rallies and bring it into the document that they are going to present? And remember, the rallies that we are going to, BBI original, and now BBI, I think it's better to call BBI to the new team, because now we have two. And then one would want to find out how will these views all then be merged to find their way into that document. And remember, the only document that is going to be admitted legally is the one that Haji will present. And no matter what we all say outside here, it is his document that carries, what you would call the semi-legal as of this moment.
Thank you.
Momentum.
Thank you very much.
And let me say that for the country, we have to rethink, in my view. And I would want to urge my colleagues in politics, can we take a second look at this and ask ourselves, are we taking the right direction in this? And I'm not saying that personally myself I will not attend the BBI rallies. I will. When they come to Kiambu, and what I would be saying to my colleagues, is it necessary that we chase this thing all over, wherever it goes, and taking this agenda to Mombasa, the same guys in Kakamega, and the same guys now, and they have a new one that will be in Nakuru and the other places. Can we let the committee, as it were, do its work? But when the rallies are in Kiambu, collect the views of your people in Kiambu, bring them to that one rally, let it end there, and this team goes away with your views.
Thank you. Yeah, a good, of course, suggestion there. And the question will be also, maybe to Jacob Dio, why don't we suspend all these rallies as they are right now? We're taking momentum, and then we just concentrate particularly on what the task force is, to do. And then afterwards, when they come with their recommendations, is when now we can hit the ground running with their recommendations. Because as it is right now, we have two parallel meetings. We have now the task force, we have all these rallies, as you say, Wamatangi. Is this also bound to affect also maybe the deliberations of a task force, right? So that now they're independently, just working instead of having all these influences, and maybe suggestions and innuendos coming from the BBI rallies. What is your take?
The answer is no. Suspend nothing. Escalate. We are trying
suspend nothing, escalate.
Escalate.
Okay.
We are trying to change a constitution during peace times. And in the last 7 years, so to speak, but particularly the last 2 years, the Tanga team have been the only ones playing politics. A constitution is a political document. And if you tell people don't go to Mombasa and wait, how is somebody in Sierra going to know that the people of Coast Province have issues of land? These things must be echoed by the media. In fact, the media is doing such a superb job. I must congratulate you for always taking this negative statement from Aaron when he says you guys are part of the problem.
It's criticism.
You are doing, yeah, no, well, criticism can also be positive.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying they are doing a superb job, the opposite of what you're saying. But, no, to say politicians have hijacked the process, it's really mischievous. Article 1 of the Constitution says the power belongs to the people. And that power may be exercised through elected leaders. The people I saw in Mombasa are the elected leaders and the politicians. They were doing the right thing. In fact, the two people who spoke there best for me were Murkomen and Moses Wetangula. They spoke to the issues BBI. The rest were there. It's a political event. You know, what is the problem here now, Tibal, is that after 2 years of noise and noise without substance, for that matter, by Team Tanga, now this other team is countering. Because for 2 years, remember when people were talking about BBI, they were saying, no, the constitution is new, we can't change it. Now they have said we are supporting it. And then in the same breath, they are saying they do not want the debate to move on.
Yes.
How do people debate? Do you want us to debate in churches or in Busa or Changa dens? What are you saying? And how do you know the pointers to the issues?
Right. Let me just continue as I try and sort out your mic. Continue.
Yeah.
Just continue.
Because the people in across the country are people who want to listen to news, to politicians. What did Uhuru say? What did Raila say?
Yeah, just continue with it.
By Uhuru saying that Kenya cannot move forward this way. He is the top politician in the country, and he has engaged the other top politician, and they are saying, let us talk about our future. And you know, what the problem is this deceitful nature of our politicians. Even the ones saying the politicians have hijacked are also politicians. And when you say the people are not included, I do not know, I was in Kakamega. If those are not the people, and I saw Mombasa on TV, if those are not the people, then somebody is really trying to twist the meanings of things. And lastly, let me offer free advice to the DP. You cannot say you are supporting and then give conditions. You will lose. Let me just tell you, the force of
But what conditions has he given? Can you give us some of example of the conditions that he's given?
Well, I saw Murkomen talking. And when I say DP, I mean the whole construction of the Tanga team. Murkomen was saying when they go to those rallies, for you to talk, you must first of all sing the praise of the leader of the I watched him last night. No, but you're not Murkomen.
Just a moment.
Play that clip.
But you're
Actually,
not Murkomen.
he said the opposite of what you're saying.
No, he may have.
But
let me offer
what did
my
he say?
advice.
Just a moment. What did he say?
He said we will entertain politicians from all color and shade, and you will not be forced to sing any recital before you make your point, as was the case in Mombasa.
What did you hear?
That is exactly what I'm saying. What have I said which is different?
But you're saying that he said, according to him, you'll have to make a certain recital before speaking to the people. That's opposite.
You are a student of literature. Stop feigning. You know I'm from game. I understand this. But let us continue with the debate. Let me just give my advice.
But what you're saying is completely different from what Aaron Cheruiyot
No,
is
what I
actually...
am saying, Murkomen said that when you go to those rallies offered by the team, like the one he attended in Mombasa, you must first of all say you are loyal to Raila Odinga before you are allowed to talk. All those people cannot talk. Those were hundreds of MPs. And many of them, you know, I've been a member of parliament for 15 years. Half the time, MPs stand and say, I agree with what Boni Halwale said. But if you go there, you're supporting. Why must you talk? Many of them, Kenyans, don't even know their faces. It is not a place where you go and practice how to talk. It is a place where substance is presented, like Kingi presented. In fact, if I was advising them, after Kingi presented, one or two people should have talked and it is over. Because it was a presentation to the people and the nation. And the media was there covering it live. But my advice is that if you want to go to war, please understand your enemy. You see the cartoon? It means the enemy, the Tanga have not understood their enemy. They have not understood that the person they think is their enemy can play 10 football matches in different fields at the same time.
Right. Let's hear from Boni Halwale. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. What I saw in Kisii and in Kakamega and Mombasa, loosely speaking, I would refer to it as a gathering of Kenyans from all shades of opinion. Let's give credit to the conveners. They tried as much as they did. That gathering had an intention of rewriting the entire constitution of Kenya or sections of it. Now, in English, and I expect people like Amolo Tiende, who attended, and Jokoe Medio, to be very good at English. In English, that kind of gathering is called a constitutional convention. A constitutional convention. And a constitutional convention, for it to have any deliverables, must actually have delegates and delegations that have been agreed upon by all stakeholders. Because the constitution they're purporting to make is actually a social contract between the people of Kenya and those of you who call yourselves the ones governing them. In the absence of that, and you saw clearly that that was not the case,
yes.
Then what these people were doing is what is in the cartoon. In the cartoon, the cartoonist is simply telling you, you are behaving stupidly, you're being foolish. That is not the way it is done. So I agree with them, and I would like to make the following comments. I agree with the cartoonist, and I would like to make the following comments. The first one is that the owners of the original idea, President Uhuru and former Prime Minister Raila, should swallow the bitter pill and accept that the thing has now become a soap opera. And for that reason, they should go back to only 3 people. 1, the Hachi team, B, President Uhuru, and C, Raila Odinga. I want to think that the 2 politicians, Raila and Uhuru, had good intentions when they decided that we should go this route. And this being the case, let us be honest. We saw it in Bomas. Uhuru, who I know for a fact that he is not equal to Raila, he is the president, he led the country and said, now let this document go to the people. He was allowing for a constitutional requirement called public participation. So instead of allowing the public participation to continue being driven by the PPI team, out of the blues, the Orange Democratic Movement, plus the people they intimidate, thank God I'm not one of such people, intimidated by ODM, they have brought in something foreign, something strange, called the BBI rallies. And this confusion will continue and continue and continue. Honorable Amolo, what I did in Mumias, whichever English words we use, whether you call it a parallel or a one-man show, it was a meeting of the people of Western Province. It was not meant for you. And its agenda was specific. It was an economic forum. The reason why it didn't take off, it was not because of our failure on 18th to make it successful, but because you used brutal, raw state power to stop us, up to and including the head of state, if the papers are telling us the truth, asking Musalia Mudavadi and Wetangula not to go to that function. Had you not brought the police, the function would have gone on. And this was evidenced by last weekend on 25th when we did the function successfully. Give credit where it is due. Now, here we are. And Eseli, you seemed to be offended at the beginning when I was asking you. I was just looking for clarity. Here we are about to face two documents. The first one is the document that I want to call the Haji document of Bomas. The second one is now, which has been announced by Raila clearly, or his party, in today's paper, that ODM is pushing for a new document on page 1. And there are only two things in Raila's document. Namely, they want to introduce in the new constitution of Kenya regional governments and 2 centers of power where you have got an executive prime minister and a popularly elected president. That's what they're saying. I would like to call that the ODM BBI report. And then the other one is the Haji BBI report. So to end this confusion, stop these rallies. And then budget parliament, you're here, make a budget for a referendum. And let that referendum come with only the following questions. Kenyans, do you support the 2010 constitution, which currently is in force? Or B, tick if you like against that box, or B, box number 2, do you want that constitution to be amended to be the one launched in Bomas called the Haji BBI report? And then finally, do you want the one of ODM? Kenyans are going to vote and they will give us a result which we can live with.
Right.
You know, Dibal, with due respect to all of us, it is holding Kenyans in contempt. It is assuming they are foolish. That you invite them in Kisii, you invite them to Kakamega, invite them to Mombasa to give their views. Then they are not given an opportunity to give their views at all. Instead, resolutions are read to them.
All right.
What is more,
thank you.
In conclusion, what is more, even as they were invited to come to give their views, they have not been given an opportunity to read the BBI document. So people are coming to give views on something they have not read. The BBI report is not with members of the public.
Thank you. Could that also be a reflection of what we have in the People Daily today? I think Stano has actually absolutely captured what you're saying today. This is a politician, and there we have the politician, Ord Wanjiku, you know, on the back of Wanjiku. And he's saying, I read it and understood it. Everything, this is everything. I read it and understood everything. This is the way. And you can see where he's pointing. It's towards the referendum as it is. Exactly. Let Wanjiku give her opinion too, right? So we have all these pronouncements that are made from the rallies as well. But where is the input of Wanjiku as it is right now? Because as it is, we're asking, the politicians really taken over? Jacobo says, no. They are the elected representatives of the people, so they're the base of it. But where actually is the voice of Wanjiku? Briefly, before we take a short break, just briefly.
This has been my position ever since, and I think it is in saying things such as this that Otiende reads it to mean that we are opposed to the BBI exercise, and that is what also Eseli seemed to be having as his understanding of our earlier words of caution that we gave to this process. In my honest opinion, and I've said this on this show times without number, that BBI 1 was a sham because it was not largely consultative. That's why many of us have said, okay, if you want to use the kind of brute and force that is being used on this particular process to take on the views of people, then so be it. We shall take the opportunity and give our views, because at the end of the day, I've realized we live in a country, whether you give your views or you don't, it doesn't matter. So you better give your views anyway. Otherwise, we will never have found the opportunity to be able to be part and parcel of this process. Because in all honesty, Debal, it is very unfortunate what is happening. All these moving politicians from one place to the other, paying them to attend these rallies using state money, booking their flights, moving them each and every weekend. That's why we remain to be a third world country, because of doing things the way we are doing.
Leave it at that. We'll circle back with you. Of course, we'll drill deeper and see have they really taken over the BBI initiative as it is right now? That is the politicians. We saw what happened in Mombasa with their pronouncements also about the third-tier government as well. So was that the main agenda of the BBI, or what is it? It seems also Wananchi are lost as far as the BBI True North is concerned. Where is it pointing towards? We have the task force back. They're talking about also a technical committee that also will take the opinions from the task force as it is and move forward now. And then we'll see how that one will pan out as far as the technical committee is concerned as well. So we take a short break right now, and when we come back, we'll try and drill deeper on these issues and also try and weigh in on what is on the day list today. Don't go away.
Kupika kila mtu ajipikie yake. Na vyombo za nani? Kwa nani?
Am I not getting some?
Ice cream ya wageni. Wewe nitakuletea maji kwa jikoni.
A girl's gotta eat to keep up with you, Mr. Guns.
Well, that's absolutely correct.
This festive season, get a decoder with subscription at an unbelievable festive offer of only 1,499 shillings. You can also pay 1 month and enjoy 2 weeks free on a higher bouquet. For more information, call 0719 077 077.
Star Times. Enjoy digital life.
Enroll now for professional qualification whose entry grade is C+, Diploma in Credit Management or Accounting Technician Diploma course whose entry requirement is a C- in KCSE, or for Certificate in Accounting and Management Skills comes with a minimum grade of D plain. CASNEB. Be empowered.
Every day, NTV News Team moves you to the center of the action.
The security forces who took part in this operation.
Police are not taking anything to chance it.
Moves you to the heart of the story to witness and record history.
Rendering the declared results null and void.
Telling the story of Kenya.
The growing importance of border in Mandera.
Matatus will be on strike.
And beyond.
The politics in the United States capital.
It is the 7th edition of the Global Education taking place in Dubai.
When it comes to business, we crunch the numbers and unpack the detail with the latest information for your investment decision.
It's time to say goodbye to this note and karibu to this note.
In order for the manufacturing sector to be elevated from the ground.
Despite the government's promise to create at least 1.3 million jobs.
Moves you fast past the planes and trucks to bring you the triumphs and joys of our great men and women.
Moving stories that touch our hearts.
I didn't know that I could go back to school.
The Back to School program has brought hope to these young mothers.
NTV News. News that moves you.
Welcome back. You're watching People and Politics here on AM Live, and we continue with the conversation at pace. Before we took a short break, we were hearing from Aaron Cheriot. I hope you've not lost your track of thoughts, which also will be reading some of the tweets much later in the course of the program. Aaron?
You distracted me a bit, Debal. So let me conclude first the trail of thought that I had.
Please.
It was about the whole exercise and how it is being run, and why I find it so offensive to us as a nation, us as a people, the kind of challenges that we face, and what we are doing. Do you know, Debal, for every member of parliament that you see traveling to Mombasa, there's an allowance paid out of taxpayers' money to the tune of, I think, 100,000 or thereabout.
Yeah?
Secondly, air travel is paid for by taxpayers. Where they sleep is paid for by taxpayers. All that tents and to organize all those things, it is taxpayers' money. For heaven's sake, how difficult would it have been if we said, we know, you cannot be a leader and not know what ails the people that you lead. I do not think that there is any leader in this country who don't understand the kind of challenges that you are facing. Therefore, all this process, despite the fact that you wanted to be fully consultative,
yes,
I think this route that you are taking, and this is the part that I agree with you, Jacoyo, now, that despite the fact that we may have wanted to be fully consultative, in the long run, it will end up being a very expensive exercise. And in terms of 1, time, 2, resources, 3, also the national attention and focus to the kind of challenges that our people face, whether they are given this attention. Like somebody, I don't know who said it, but I heard somebody say in Mombasa, surely we cannot be leaders and come back for the 3rd or 4th time. We came back, took their views on Dunguland report. We came back, took the views of the coastal people on TJRC. We took their views during the constitution making process. Now we want to take views again during this BBI exercise. I mean, we are just being deceitful. And Otiende, time has come for us to say, let us be honest. If we want to solve the challenges that Kenyans are facing, then let us be forthright about it and say, we can solve up to this much. This much, despite the fact that you're asking about it, we are not considerate or constructive in terms of desiring to solve it. Therefore, that has been our point. There's this discussion that I've had Otiende, and I think my friend Kimani Wamatangi has said about parallel meetings. I think it's a wrong notion that has been created by how our meeting was put. We never spoke about parallel meetings, Dibal. They are called complementary meetings. There's no day, there is no day. A parallel meeting means, like now what was happening in Kakamega that day. There's a group at Bukungu, there's another one at Nabongo. That is a parallel meeting. Complementary meetings mean if for this day, the Otiende and the group that are organizing are in Meru, we give them the chance to hold their meeting. At a later day, we will hold our meetings in different places where we have said, you are invited as well. Just the same way we have come to your meetings and we've been accorded some level of playing field, which we think can largely be expanded a bit, because it wasn't fair what was done in Mombasa Dibal, when you deny local leaders a chance to address the gathering just because you don't agree with their views, people like Mohammed Ali and those whose thinking is known, then you're not making this process about the coastal people. Finally, Dibal, how the newspapers have covered our meeting is a bit deceitful. And you know, when Otiende was speaking, I quickly dashed to check who the writer of this story was, because I wanted to see if he's from Rarieda too. You know, I think Rarieda people have a problem with this meeting. First it is Tuju, then Otiende, and I think probably maybe the editor of this, because when you say it's a palace coup, this meeting was not about discussing the conduct or the position of our party leader. We remain clear in our heads that President Uhuru Kenyatta remains to be our party leader, and there is nothing. We may disagree on 1 or 2 things, but he still remains to be a leader, and we'll continue to accord him the kind of respect that.
So you think the choice of words are
the choice of words to refer it was a coup? Because I even heard Otiende say that now the DP should resign. You know, and I've kept on reminding Otiende times without number that the DP is not short on advisors, and he's I don't think he has earned the stripes as a first-time member of parliament to be able to advise a giant like the deputy president, to tell him when to quit, when to continue. I don't think it's, in all fairness, that is right.
But what are the metrics?
This meeting, I have said, is a gathering of like-minded members of parliament who have seen with great concern the direction that the BBI process was taking, and say, please, let's steer this vehicle back to where it rightfully belongs, which is at the heart of the issues that continue to face our people. That's why we talked about guaranteed minimum returns, which used to exist back in the day, that you need to set at least 5% of national revenue to ensure that these are our proposals, which unfortunately Jacoyo refers to as conditions. They are our proposals, Jacoyo. They are not conditions. We are saying, if you can do this, set aside a fund at least to tackle unemployment. And this, the final most important thing is the 3.5% that you are proposing to the judiciary fund, so that CJ Maraga and future chief justices don't have to come to parliament to beg or go to the executive to beg each and every time.
You're still on the papers. So are you happy also with the other dailies as well?
Of course.
The Daily Nation?
revolt. It's the same line. It was written by Rarieda people.
Also from Rarieda. Rariedas are the editors in chief of all these papers.
It's a credit.
It's a credit.
They are the chief propagandists in this.
Continue in that line.
Okay, Ivan.
Okay.
The
writers of that article. No, the editors. It's not the writers. The editors. You know, if you are serious, you would have known the problem is always that man who's seated at the corner editing your news. It's not what you write.
All right, let's hear from Dr. Eseli. So this is turning out to be a very expensive affair as it is right now. And a country where we're trying to instill austerity measures, it seems then we're speaking from both sides of the mouth as it is. If going by what we hear that, yes, all these expenses for people to attend in the rallies are actually, you know, are covered or they're being paid by the taxpayer or at the end of the day.
I don't know about that because I attended the Kakamega rally and I didn't receive any money as such.
Yeah.
However,
so where are we getting this information? However,
I would like to say that if these people are being paid to attend those rallies from government coffers, that's a lot of money. And I guess the government has the money, but then who is this one paying for accommodation even in Naivasha, which is equally expensive? Is that the government also, or is there somebody who has as much money as the government?
Aaron, you want to respond to that?
That would be very...
No.
Let me finish.
Let's go round.
I'll rejoin them. Okay, finish. All right, thanks.
Let me finish. However, I still insist that this new attitude in politics, the intolerance, my way or the highway, is leading us to dangerous grounds, because we need to realize that if we are doing this indeed for Kenyans, and this for both sides, we need to actually put the Kenyans in front rather than individuals, because all of them, whether they deny it or not, they have a focus on 2022. That's where we are focusing. And I think, I said this on this program some time back, that when two elephants fight, the grass suffers. But also when they make love, the grass also suffers. And this is a situation where, I think two elephants are fighting, the BBI one on one side and now the Tagatanga team on the other side. Those are two elephants fighting, the grass will still suffer. Now when the grass suffered again, when two elephants made love, was the handshake. When two elephants made love, the grass still again suffered. So I think we are having a situation here where we are losing sight of what really ails Kenya and what we need to do to correct things here. To the extent that even now as we sit here talking, we are not talking about graft anymore, the corruption and so on, and we are not talking, it's been sidelined. We are not talking about the Locust invasion, which actually is a problem, a serious issue.
Yes.
We are not talking about that. Our minds have been diverted to something else that probably by the end of it, when the locusts have eaten everything up, then that's when we will wake up and realize, oh, we don't have any food anymore. And then there's these reactionary activities. You know, this happens and somebody reacts to it like what Kinabone Khalwale tried to do in Mumias, with a lot of propaganda involved. It's not of any use, because when I look at the people attending that Mumias meeting, actually some of them have been part of the reasons why those institutions have failed. Some people who actually supervised the failure of Zoya were actually in that meeting. And you know, failure of Zoya was very interesting. When we, the leaders of Bungoma, insisted that we get a good MD to run the place, and we actually put a good MD who was actually chased out of office by the directors. The directors again appointed by Jubilee, and some of them were in that meeting in Mumias. I find it very interesting, this kind of reactionary whatever, pretending to be closer to the people, yet you are part of the cause of the problems of the people. I don't think that's the right way to go. And in the long run, everybody, we are going to start exposing some of these people, because it's not good to keep on pretending that we are doing things for the common mwananchi when you are actually part of the problem. You are not part of the solution, and you just use it as a way of drumming up public sympathy. I guess that's a political strategy, but it's a political strategy that leads to nowhere, and that's why Kenya is where we are now. We should be much better off but we are not, because of the kind of people that lead the conversation in this country.
All right, thank you. So, yeah, a lot of issues coming up then. How are we funding this BBI rally? I think that's a bigger question that we should be deliberating on as well, even moving forward, because we're going to have a lot of them. I don't know, this will be coming to Kiambu as well, including hotels, you know, around the country as well, not only just in Naivasha, but also in Mombasa. And many more even will be coming to Kiambu. Let's just hear from Otende Amolo, then we'll deliberate also on what a pivotal point he raised, and I think maybe you'll pick up on it, about ODM having their own agenda to try and quash. I think this is or have a proposal to repeal the County Government Acts 2012 and replace it with Devolved Government Acts and Regional Public Service Act. It's all about the regional or the third-tier government as it is right now. So is it particularly intent, you know, the agenda?
That is not worth responding to.
It's not
because
worth responding.
there's no document like that. That is cheap talk. Those are proposals that come from some of the meetings until they are crystallized and reduced into a document. We can't talk about it.
But
because somebody has made a proposal.
They purport to show the intention, even if it's a proposal.
No,
the intention of.
Listen, Dibal, let's be fair to ourselves. We've only had 3 meetings. We are supposed to have about 12. In each of those 3 meetings, different regions have made different proposals. You cannot take any of those proposals and call it the ODM proposed document, like Boni Halwale is doing. That means, first, you are belittling all the other meetings that are yet to be held. Secondly, it means you are brighter. You are like God himself, who knows eventually what will come out of a process that is being undertaken. I think let's deal with the real issues are there. And let me start from where Aaron left. Dibal, there are a lot of reckless statements that have been made in this show. And I think, you need to tone down this. Otherwise, we'll all become like a joke. Like Aaron, when every week you take an issue with the media, then the problem is not the media. The problem is you. And when, like today, the 2 leading media houses, you are challenging the Standard, you are challenging the Nation, you are challenging the writers, you are calling Anthony Gitonga as Jacob Ngetich as people from Rarieda who've done the story on the Standard. I think that's really cheap, and it's unfortunate. You should not allow this kind of thing, okay? It is clear, and there's no way all these 4 writers could have got it so wrong in so many pages. I think the bottom line of this is as captured on page 4 of The Nation. If you look at the first line, under the one political muscle, they said this is the beginning of the end between the 2 leaders. Yeah, and that is the president and the deputy. We've realized that joining the ongoing BBI rallies is suicidal to the deputy president's political future. That is the bottom line. And that is what the Naivasha meeting was about. That is what these parallel rallies are about. And then Aaron tells us they are not parallel, they are complementary. That's a distinction without a difference. And that's all we will say about that. Secondly, you hear Aaron make a fundamental statement that all the MPs who attend these rallies, they are given 100,000, their airfare is paid, their hotel is paid. You know, it is really unfortunate, because when you say such things, you ought to be prepared to back them up. I can tell you, I attended Kisii, I attended Kakamega, I've attended Mombasa. I have not received a single shilling from anyone. And I can tell you for sure that to the best of my knowledge, all the ODM MPs who are attending these rallies have not received any money from anyone. I use my own resources to attend those meetings. So to sit here in a panel and allow reckless statements like from Aaron like that, without asking him for the evidence, is to belittle us and to mislead people very dangerously. Because it's not fair to incite people to believe that, like me, I attend those rallies because I'm paid some money, whether it's from the public coffers or from anyone's pocket. The answer is no. And to the best of my knowledge, all my colleagues don't receive any money. And I think what's easier is, when somebody makes a statement like
just
that,
a moment,
you give them 1 week, you tell them next week.
It is you who just say we go sequentially,
yes.
Right? Yes, and I want we go sequentially, then we go to Aaron Chirot and ask those questions.
Dibal,
yeah?
I'm responding to all the issues. That's how we move on this one.
Yeah, that's how we move.
We are not going
so that
issue
now
by
everyone
issue,
has equal time, and I'll come to Aaron Chirot. Could you just go sequentially? Then we address the issues that he's raised. Of course, these are things I've picked up here, and we're bound. And that's why we said we are drilling deeper and questioning about even the findings and what he's saying here. Haven't I just said that?
That's only one issue.
Yes.
You know, we usually take all the issues. I have 4 more issues now. when you go back, will I also address all the other issues that were raised, including whether it's a constitutional convention, including the organization of the meetings? I think I am posting this so that you note them. When you come to
I have them all here.
You can summarize.
Yes, yes, that's what
just try and summarize so that everyone has also equal time. Because now if you go through all these points, it will be now unfair to other panelists as well.
You know, that's the tragedy of having many panelists, because by the time it comes to you,
no.
You have so much. But let me explain this. The third thing, how are the meeting organized? Now, Dr. Halwale says that there should be what we are calling a constitutional convention. Actually, they are not. And I think that's why you have a problem with it, Dr. Halwale. These are not meant to be a convention. This is a public participation and validation exercise. First is validation. We need people to agree. And many of you have now agreed that you support the BBI report. That is validation. Then participation is where you now take the further views. You put them together, and then you'll determine what to do with them. Now, the way it's been organized so far, I think is quite fair. In Kisii, they had a meeting of delegates at the Kisii Sports Club. Then later they went to the rally at the stadium. In Kakamega, I think they had that meeting a week earlier, is that so? In Bungoma. Then later they went to Buhungu. In Mombasa, they had the delegates meeting in some other hotel, something Waters. Then later we went to Wild Waters. Then later we went to Mamangina Drive. That is the way it should be. Because you have delegates who then tell you what they want. Whether what they want tallies with the rest of the country or with the technical aspect is a different matter. But then once you've taken the technical, now you come to the more public one. You give the memorandum, and then the memorandum is transmitted. What is important in all this, I think, is that we should be honest with ourselves. The first question is, do you genuinely support the BBI initiative? Forget about the report. The initiative or not? If you support the initiative, then the second question is, have you read the initial report? And do you have meaningful inputs that you want to give? There are two ways. You can choose to give those inputs quietly because you've read it, or you can choose to participate in the meetings where you also listen to other people give their views. And that is what is happening. Now, personally, I have no problem, and that's what I told Aaron. I have no problem with anybody holding other meetings to validate and to participate and to contribute, provided we don't make them clash, we don't become violent. But what is important, I think, is that we should all realize we don't have time. If we mean well that we want to have a new constitution that addresses some fundamental issues, we don't have time. We can't go beyond August or September this year. Otherwise, we are now starting to cause a more dangerous thing as we move towards 2022.
Right. Let's hear from Kimani Matangi.
Thank you, Bal. I'll try to be as long as Otiende Amolo.
I'm trying to tell Otiende Amolo.
I was speaking to the journalist also.
And because he's my friend, I may also seek to be keen or a friend of the people of Raila. You know, Dibal, first thing I would want to say is that you know, we might pose the risk in this discussion of portraying as though the rallies that are being held by the BBI team, even the politicians, as though they are bad, and that would be wrong in my view, because those rallies, if you remember the progression of the report until it arrived at Bomas, and the almost underlined cold reception, for that matter, or mixed reaction that it got from members of the public. It's because those times, that time it was largely seen as a boardroom document. And it was important, in my view, to have given it what you would call public buy-in. And the best way to give it that buy-in of members of the public is to take it to the people via their representatives. That I think we would need to guard, so that when we discuss about it, it doesn't look like necessarily it's a bad thing. But I'll tell you what I think is starting to make it get a sour taste to a certain extent. In my view, if you look at the 9-point agenda, those were genuine issues, well condensed, that affect this country. And we all agree that there are issues that have to be addressed. For example, if you looked at what would largely be closer to a politician's contribution, is the item on inclusivity. And remember, none other than the head of state, actually the deputy president, the former prime minister, have spoken about this passionately, that it is important for us to arrive at an arrangement, a formula, or a means that makes people feel that they belong, even at the end of the process of elections. I think that is a good thing, in my view. And that's why it is important, I would put it clearly, that indeed, as all agreed after the draft that was, after the report that was tabled in Bomas, even if you called it a parliamentary system with the position of a prime minister as was proposed, it was not rejected by the people. It is still a fairly good idea if it is brought in good faith. I'll tell you what then, in my view, again, brings a bit of departure from that spirit. It's, for example, when you see the document arrives in Mombasa with that proposal, then you find some new other proposals like a three-tier government on top of that document. Now that starts to divert the direction of the document. And if that continues to happen, then politicians then will upstage the intention. And of course, it is only a blind man who would say that even in the meeting there, that you would not notice that there are also political undertones. You would see that each side has hired a hitman, who is supposed to, during the address, be given enough time to fire a few shots here and there that are supposed to portray certain messages. And then it is retrieved back as though nothing has happened. And I believe that is where, if we let this now continue in the next 4, 5, 6 BBI rallies, it will now become fully blown. Secondly, Dibal, I believe also, as Jubilee, and I'm a member of Jubilee, I have to put this the way it is, that I think it is time for us to sit down and agree that we have to address our differences as the party. And because, we've been sitting on a hot plate for too long, and it's starting to burn our butts, in my view. It's starting to get uncomfortable, such that you find that we have you are forced to pretend for too long. You get what I mean? As though nothing is happening, but there are things happening. And so, other than have this Cold War, if you like, continue, whereby you have this team with Wamatangi, another team, and speaking this language and saying we are saying, and then you have this other team again and saying we are saying, and yet our party Jubilee has got two leaders who are not de facto, who are the leaders that we voted in and the leaders that we gave the mandate. That is the president and the deputy president. Those are the party leader and the deputy party leader. I think eventually now, as we move along, it's starting to make us not look good in the eyes of the people. When we seem like we are not in control of our party, it is important that now we get to sit down and agree what is ailing us, what is not ailing us, what do we need to fix, what don't we need to fix. And then that way we hope the country to move forward. Otherwise, issues are going to continue to emerge that requires the leadership of Jubilee. And you find, for example, I look at the time when we were voting in the Senate the other day on the issue of what system are we going to use to prosecute the issues of today. The impeachment hearing of the governor of Kiambu County. And of course it was all there, the proceedings were live. It was portrayed, and it was not good for the image of the party. That you find that you have this part of members speaking this way and being labeled tanga, and this one kieleweke on this. It is not good for our party. It is time to bite the bullet, in my view. It is time now to stand up and be counted. And I think I want to call upon our two leaders, the president and the deputy president, to ensure that this time I've seen you showed that on the headlines on the Star, that they held a 5-hour meeting. I think you portrayed that earlier.
Yes.
It is our wish that meeting and such meetings are going to be fruitful, finally, such that we are able to agree that this is the direction that this party is taking and we are taking as leaders. Because let it be known to all and sundry that still 3 years from today until 2022, the constitutional mandate that was given to leadership of this country was given to Jubilee and to those two leaders. So pretense cannot work anymore. It has got to be, yes, we are moving, or yes, we are not moving together. And I think that will help us to get somewhere. Lastly, let me say this, Deba, that finally to the conclusion of the BBI, we have to all be of one mind and one agreement, in my view, that this process must culminate in a document that we can hand over to Kenyans, or resolutions we can hand over to Kenyans to vote for. Vote for either by proxy of the elected leaders in parliament or in a referendum. Now, we cannot afford to hand over to Kenyans a contaminated document.
Thank you. Let's leave it at that.
Contaminated by either views of politicians, contaminated or also by intentions of politicians.
Right.
We have to give the Haji team the opportunity that they require to take this document through the motions it was intended in its last pages, because the initiative to take this document back to the people is indeed contained in the original BBI report.
Thank you. Let's leave it at that. Thank you.
We hand over to another team to condense it into law.
Thank you.
And into chewable bites.
Jacob Midio.
So finally, let me say.
Finally, no, just finally, please. This finally is the meaning of them. Jacob.
With the tenor and temper that was intended from the word.
Thank you. Thank you, Omatangi.
And lastly.
This man is debating from banana.
Otiende is taking notes. Thank you.
Because I knew the man. But when I say finally, and when I say lastly,
all right. I'm a student of Amano.
My father was a Baptist. My mother an Anglican.
Well, you know, no wonder we are talking like we are going in circles.
Mm-hmm.
You heard Omatangi, I was looking at it, Omatangi has spoken for 9 minutes and said very little.
He's not spoken for 9 minutes.
I was not speaking.
Yeah. Just continue with your statement.
Did 13.
Let the audience make the judgment.
So I want to do only 3.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Deba, we must ask ourselves, how did we get to BBI? Omatangi says the constitutional mandate was given to Jubilee. Who gave them? This election, people even went back for a rerun, and the results are out there. Nobody even knows today how many votes. Even the server has never been opened. So nobody knows who won the election. And hence, the goodwill by the president and the former prime minister to shake hands so we can move on. This has been an ongoing process. In fact, 20 years ago, we would not even be here talking the way we are talking. But we have made constant gains. In my own view, I think Kenya is in very good space because at least we are debating our future. I want to encourage my senator, my good friend Senator Cheriot, that if those things I'm calling parallel views or conditions are your views, take them to the Haji team. They just do them and take them, everybody. Like you're saying, I don't know why Otiende is running away from this thing about regional government. Because I am on record here to have opposed that idea of regional government. The first time Raila said it, but I support it now. Now that I've had to think about where the structural failures of devolution. For example, take this war in Coast Province, what we are calling Al-Shabaab. If Coast Province had remained the way we had proposed from Bomas, you will not have those things. They would have a center of power that does not does not have the core issues that people are not talking about. When you go to Malindi, and I spend a lot of time in Malindi, they will tell you this issue here is land related. And you know, because
Al-Shabaab.
Yes, I'll explain to you. Now, why is it attractive to ODM members? And it should and we should encourage Kinautire to talk about it so people understand what you mean. If you go to Nyanza, the issue of Lake Victoria, there's nothing you can invest in Lake Victoria without a government. The current constitution limits governors as to where they can go without boundaries between Busia, between Siaya, between Homa Bay. You cannot have an investment plan around Lake Victoria. If you go to Western Kenya, the issue here largely is sugarcane farming and farming in general. Why must we invest in Kakamega and all these things without a forum where we can talk about those issues that can make us invest properly in our people? If you look at all the markets in this country where county councils and town councils were effective, including Nairobi, now the governors have been reduced to people sweeping markets, to the extent that a governor goes to open a toilet in a market and calls it development. These are issues. We need to elevate this debate to what will help us in the future. These are not new things. We don't even have to think about them. We can actually plug and play.
Thank you.
From bombers. And I also want to say lastly, that this issue that BBI rally attendees are paid money, that's a very serious allegation. And I want to encourage, if DCI is listening, monies that are not budgeted for,
yes, that's what we'll come to.
That is just open and planned of public funds, if it is true. And I would want my friend here to point us towards that direction.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hold on. Then I think that's an entire debate. Let's just also get comments from what our viewers are thinking. We have Nelson Lagat.
But you've not given...
I've jumped you.
Oh,
yes, sorry. Yeah, after you then I'll read that. I thought we went sequential to all of us. Don't take it...
I hope that does not mean my contribution is an afterthought.
No, it's not.
No, forgive me.
It is not before thought.
I apologize. I thought actually you had commented. Just continue.
My brother, Dr. Sally, listening to you here and seeing how you have conducted yourself from the time we were in Bungoma, subsequently in Kakamega. In Kakamega, I'm afraid to conclude that you are a good man, an honest man. In fact, you are too honest to be where you are. If you do not know, Doctor, that the party leader of Fort Kenya and the party leader of ANC arrived at the Golf Hotel with the money which they were giving people, then you are too honest to be there. In fact, one of the ANC parliamentary hopefuls confided in me that he had to be summoned by the party leader so that he collects his money for air ticket and so on. Now, that does not mean I'm against people receiving money to go to functions. I actually support it. The only wrong thing about it is if the money is not budgeted for. Yakoyo, you remember that the delegates who were at Bomas in 2005, thereabouts, were actually being paid because it was provided for clearly.
Where would the ANC party leader and Fort Kenya party leader get? They are not part of the... I
don't want to go further than that. That's why I'm saying you are too honest to be where you are. Honorable Amolo, you've raised the issue, and this is not the first time, that you want the deputy president to resign. And listening to you, you are so offended by the Naivasha rally. That's why you said, you said it, and even said people from Rarieda have written that the guy is now challenging the authority of the president and so on.
I've not said any such thing.
Now, you know how I respect you. Now,
I think you're only listening to a saying.
Yes, as you make that assertion, and given that correctly so, Aaron clearly pointed out that you're from Rarieta, and Tuju, who has made some unhelpful remarks about the PG that was in Naivasha, both of you are from Rarieta. I think you need to think a bit further. You know, the Constitution of Kenya, 2010, has not been suspended. The assumptions you're making, the movement you've been making from Kisii to Kakamega and Mombasa is as if the constitution has been suspended. It hasn't. Be aware of state power, which you have and which has not been given by the constitution. That power you people think you have through your party leader is what the Americans would call 15 minutes of fame, or the British would call seasonal power. The real power is the one that Ruto and President Uhuru wield. Did it occur to you that out of the 3 rallies, the highest number of MPs we have been able to assemble is 58? And in just one flick, Ruto was able to assemble 170 MPs. No wonder you are scared of a parliamentary decision on this particular process. Finally.
That is according to what documentary evidence do you have with this particular figures that you're putting on the table?
Finally.
No, what I'm asking you.
They don't give figures nowadays. They just throw them.
Where are we getting these figures?
The journalists counted us.
The papers have reported. I'm not a newspaper reporter. They're telling us how many people attended where.
Against?
Yes.
So then
but they also said Mombasa was attended by 200 MPs.
Then it's true it was a palace coup.
Yeah.
All right, no. Have you finished?
No,
have you finished?
I was waiting for you to.
All right, just to continue.
My brother Amolo, not Amolo, Jakoyo, when you say you have now changed your mind and you've seen the wisdom in regional government, you are entitled to your opinion. But the things you are advancing so as to justify, to my mind, in good faith, you are speaking to the economic dynamics in the region. The fact that the United States of America, Japan, UK and Germany and others belong to the G7, which is purely for economic reasons. The fact that we have the European Union, the fact that we have the East African Community, which is purely for economic reasons, and that countries subscribe to those economic blocks, doesn't mean they should lose their sovereignty. To the people of our counties today, there is a degree of sovereignty about their counties. You are not going to ask the people of Vihiga, for example, to go back to Kakamega, where they left a long time ago. You ask the people of Trans Nzoia to go back to Nakuru, which they left thanks to this constitution of 2007. So if you want a way of doing the economic activities so that several countries are pulled together, then let's speak to economic blocks. But to simply support regional governments...
Thank you.
Yeah,
you've had your time.
You've had your time.
Thank you. You've had your time. You have your time.
Yes.
You've had your time.
Don't be uncomfortable with my point.
No, it's not uncomfortable. I think you also need to keep cognizant of the fact that, yes, everyone has a share.
So just before you ring that bell, yeah? before the way you did for others.
Lastly.
For the final time.
Okay. Briefly.
My final point...
As you conclude.
That
will buy you some more.
Continue.
Is that
you did tutorials.
Regional government is a bait to try and bring governors on board on the BBI of ODM. And I mean BBI of ODM because the BBI T-shirts on those rallies are actually in ODM colors. Can you see? You guys of Fort Kenya?
But that is your own opinion and perception. So just a moment.
It is not true.
Yeah?
I didn't see any T-shirts.
None.
It's not
Just no T-shirt, first of all.
Really?
So
none.
BBI.
I think Khalwale, we're talking about T-shirts, now confirms what he's accusing me of being honest. Because he seems to veer to the other side of honesty.
All right, let's see reactions from Twitter here. We have Engineer Lazaro Kanyambok saying that parallel rallies will only stimulate this nation deeper into another unfavorable political tension. The president should use his constitutional authority to stop any charged political activities in the country before 2022. Also, we have Jamal Ochola Jr. saying Eseli is thinking for a Kenyan here. COBBI and Locust corruption, etc., is finishing us, of course, alluding to the fact that we should be discussing other issues none other than just the BBI. Also, we have Jamal Ochola saying that Kume, these people attend these meetings due to Padiem, Kweli, Wajinga, Nisisi, or Kenya. We're yet to establish that. Also, we have Gamaliel and Namale asking, ask Boni Mtetezi if the meeting at Nabongo was about economic empowerment for the Western region. Does he know that Wekohas is he a member? I don't know if you know Wekohas. I don't know what that is.
It is called Wekowas.
Wekowas.
Yes.
What is it?
I'll
You
define
can inform us for many Kenyans who also, you'll tell us.
Yes.
Yes. Then we have Nafis Mohammed saying, seems the Tanga wing of Jubilee Party have lost their sense of purpose, direction and judgment. Their position on BBI is very confusing. They support it while opposing at the same time. They need to state their official position on BBI. This is what Nafis Mohammed is saying. Also, we have Ricky Ndemo saying, when the DP goes around with Tanga, are these not public funds squandered? All politicians are born from the same mother. He says to loot. This is Eric from Addis Ababa. Also, we have, still loading here. We have also Mawazo Fikirini saying, we are tired of that story. Mix it up. Give us a Locust, a front page. Then go back to Raila and Ruto. I won't pronounce that. Of course, there's a
Please
follow-up
do.
there.
We don't know what you're reading.
Okay, then we have Ndungu and Aina saying, BBI is much ado about nothing. All proposals so far coming from BBI reports have twofold solution. One, administrative and legislative actions is in compliance with the Constitution. And two, full faithful implementation of Constitution and upholding rule of law. We have many of them. We have also Obunga Pamo saying BBI is all about 22 succession. Tanga versus Kieleweke is a duel meant for political fireworks in 2022. Tuache kizungu mingi. We have Mula saying those delegates that are said to have been invited to be read for or to applaud the resolutions, who picked them? And what was the criteria? This is what Mula is concerned about. Yeah. Right, let's just leave it at that because of time as well, and we can respond. And we can try and take their views and ask also some very genuine questions that are being asked about the funding of the BBI. Who is funding BBI? Aaron Cheriot. Yes, the meetings in Naivasha, the meetings in Mombasa, the meetings, of course, in Buhungu Stadium. Who pays for the venue?
Dibal, first of all, allow me to clarify something with Otiende and on behalf of the people of Rarieda. You know, Otiende has this habit of getting worked up on something, but blaming something totally different on the reason why he's worked up. I think he's worked up because of the things I said, but not what I said about Rarieda people. I said if two of their most prominent sons, you and Tuju,
could we just now? No. I think we're going off the rails. No. I won't allow the debate about Rarieda and all that jazz. Tuju is not here actually to also, you know,
there's no bad intention on the people of Rarieda. Anyway, Dibal, this is what I want. This is what I want to answer you. About 2 or 3 Saturdays ago, I think the day that they were going to Kisii for the BBI meeting, I was at Wilson Airport to take my flight to Kisumu for my weekend activities. And there at Wilson were 3 fixed-wing planes that were taking members of parliament to Suneka airstrip, you know, in Kisii. Most of these members are my friends, they're my colleagues, they're people that I talk to. So we engaged and said, oh, we are headed to Kisii for BBI, of course, the tiff and turn of politics, and we left it at that. When I met them later, a good number of them, later on in the week, we had a discussion, what were the proposals, what happened, and what entirely happened. It is them who revealed to me this issue that of being paid 100,000 shillings. I had the same reports about Kakamega. I haven't met anyone who went to Mombasa to have an opportunity to ask them. But even leave alone the issue of members of parliament. You send a message right now, Dibal, and ask the delegates who attended the Kisii meeting, for example, whether they were paid to attend or not. They'll give you the answer.
Paid by who?
Why do you just ask a simple question? Were you paid and by who? Because my word, you don't want to trust it. Finally, even on the issue, if you see how that function is arranged, from the tent, that huge, it's called a dome, you know, you think it just found its way there. There are resources that are being spent. You'll be a fool
and the only man in Jerusalem, as I put it, to imagine that somebody gave money out of their pocket to put up such a tent. That tent costs about 8 to 10 million shillings. It's not small money. Therefore, there is a source of funding for these BBI meetings. It is for you and you to help us find out who is funding. That's my entire point.
Right. Who's funding?
In concluding, there's a question that, just to wrap up my thoughts, because I see our time is almost coming to an end. Which way for this BBI exercise? First of all, Otiende, if you're honest and you want to have a discussion about how do we make Kenya better, and I said, having taken time to introspectively reflect and say, what is it that we can do as a country, do for Kenya during this whole exercise, despite all the hypocrisy about what is happening in BBI. When you go to meetings, you stifle the views of those you don't agree with. Governors are told it is either BBI or EACC. That's why you're seeing them trooping to these BBI rallies, because it's one way or the other. There's something that Kenya can get out of this. Number one, Otiende, we must draft a referendum law, because the truth of the matter is that even as ODM, in their usual confusion, continue to insist that we must have a referendum before June, we do not have a law to guide the process, the referendum process. Many countries do their referendums differently. It's either a yes/no question or a multi-layered questionnaire. We have to define it in no which way for Kenya. I would propose that we do a multi-choice referendum for us, because there are things that we agree on, all of us. Things like strengthening agriculture, devolution, funding to the judiciary. Those are popular things which most Kenyans agree on. We may not agree on the structure of government, whether parliamentary or presidential or hybrid. Those are the things that you give it to Kenyans for them to choose, and whoever carries the day gets to have their chance. That you can only achieve if you have a referendum law that provides for the opportunity of a multi-choice question. And the final thing, Dibal, what is it that makes us fight during elections? Never forget that all these members of parliament that sit here, despite the fact that they may never agree on who won the presidency, agree that they were duly elected at the constituency level. How comes in all these BBI meetings, there is very little mention of IEBC? Yet it is the biggest bone of contention in how we run our electoral process. Don't you think it is time to reflect and say, what is it that you think you people in ODM that are constantly complaining about how presidential elections have been conducted, give us your proposal about what you want.
Let's leave it at that. Let's hear from Dr. Iseli. Who is funding BBI? And is there a budget for it?
I think I come back to what Halale said about honesty. I think you heard by Halale's admission, and I think many Kenyans must have recognized that by now, that the political class have a shortage of honesty, a serious deficit of honesty. And so we need to look at it that way when we are looking at the BBI, who is funding what. Because as I mentioned earlier, if the state is funding the BBI meetings, who is funding the Naivasha meetings? I didn't get an answer.
How many are they big?
One so far, very big, as you said, the Palace School.
To sleep in a hotel in Naivasha, the Palace 10,000 shillings.
Yeah, 470 people. Anyway, that's said and done. But you see when
who's funding? That's the probing question.
When I mention it, you see how touchy it is. With Aaron's reaction.
Because you're calling it meetings as if they've
well, okay, then sleepovers, if not meetings. But it's amusing that those who opposed the Constitution 2010 are now reluctant to change it. Yet an opportunity to change it has come.
And those who support it
and
want to
that's
change.
why I keep on saying that Jubilee has failed Kenyans, especially now with the internecine fight. Until they have forgotten about good governance, they are so busy fighting internally. And this way, we are pretending to be fighting corruption, yet deeply promoting crony capitalism and tribalism. The BBI is just a valve that has been placed there to release Kenyans' tension, so that Kenyans can believe they are actually now participating in a discourse to change the country. But really, I don't think Jubilee has got any intention to change anything.
Thank you.
And my advice to Kenyans, as I've always told them, keep very far from Jubilee. Not just now, not just in 2022, but forever. They should just keep a big distance. Because you see, like, as Maraga complains about not having enough money in the judiciary, but if you read the Business Daily, they're raising more money in fines. what does that tell you? That crime has gone up and people are being fined more? So I think Maraga should concentrate on raising more fines than crying for the treasury to give him more money.
All right. Dr. Molo.
You know, I waited for my friend Aaron Cheriot to give us this evidence of money being paid. And all he has said is that he saw 3 choppers at Wilson. The most number of people a chopper can take is 4.
I said
If you saw 3, that makes about 12.
He said fixed wing. Fixed wing in the Cessnas.
But how many?
By his admission.
Yes, so I hear. Anyway, now the thing about this is, I suspect that Aaron and his Tanga group are so used to being paid for any meeting they go to that they don't believe anybody else can use their own money to go to any meeting. I want to challenge you, Aaron, and I want you to go and look for all your sources. The way I previously challenged you about the results Jacob keeps talking about, which you never tabled. You bring that evidence that even me, forget about, you may not want to mention any of your friends, me, that have received even a single shilling for attending those meetings, then we will start respecting what you say. But when you don't back up what you say, then you must allow people not to believe you. Now, secondly, I refrain from the debate that Jacob invites me to go into for now, the question of the regional governments. One, because it is true it's been proposed in at least 2 of the places. I think it was proposed in Mombasa and also in Kisii. But the discussion is going on. The truth is, even the harmonized draft constitution had regional governments when we were in the committee of experts. But when you go there, there's a lot more that you must discuss. What is the form of government you're talking about?
Right.
Will you have a regional assembly?
Shall we reserve that particular debate about the regional governments for another forum? Let's talk about the funding. Lastly, this is where we are.
Lastly, about the document, there are 2 things that need to come out here. There is no way we are going to have any more than 1 document, the way Dr. Boni Halwali tries to encourage. The BBI process, by whichever formation, must result in 1 document only. Now, we should all input into that. And when it comes, there will be no question of having multiple referendum questions. And Aaron, we do not need, it is good to have a referendum law, but it is not a mandatory requirement to have it before we go to referendum. We've had 2 referenda without that law. What's the big deal? The referendum will just be 1 question.
Thank you.
Do you support this document or you don't? And it's either yes or
leave
no.
it that.
That's all.
Dibala, I think on that question of, you said you want us to reserve the discussion on the regional governments for another time.
For the next forum.
Yeah, okay, fine. We'll do that. But you already have economic blocks. I think, as you were saying, you can have chairmen of those economic blocks, and they'll deal, their governors. But anyway, on the funding, my view is that those sponsored or funded meetings, wherever they are, whether in Naivasha, whether they're in any other place, I don't think they're helpful to the cause of this country, in my view. And it is important that whoever is either funding any of them, and some of us, as they say in the animal farm, some of us are more equal than others. I saw in one of the interviews here, Raila admitting that he is worth 2 billion, so maybe he could sponsor a few, and maybe, of course, any other politician who has got
not rich,
got money.
Just a poor man wants to.
Well, I mean, there are more richer men, of course, than Raila. That's the truth. So we also have to.
Thank you.
I mean, it depends on who is lending. What I was saying, Dibala, on my point on how do we move forward, and I've said it clearly, especially as Jubilee, we have to agree. Are we just going to tolerate each other until the end? Are we agreeing that there's going to be a divorce, but a stay in until some time? Those decisions we have to make, and then we're able to move forward. Lastly, is I believe that for this country, we have to focus entirely on service delivery. I repeat this many times as a member of Jubilee Party, who was sworn in 2013 and 2017. We've made promises to the people of this country. I believe the way forward for us is to make sure that we live up to the promises we made, so that Eseli can sing and make different statements that he repeats every day, because he says keep away from Jubilee, but he never tells people leave Jubilee, go to Fort Kenya. Yet he almost deserted for Fort Kenya. So I believe.
Thank you. The bell has tolled.
The handshake gains, Dibal, for the peace of this country are real. That's a statement of fact.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Jacob,
just very
on the funding.
No, I think we already. I already addressed myself to that.
Yes.
I don't wish to repeat myself, but I wanted to invite Bonnie away from this conversation to read Article 188 of the Constitution, because besides what Otiende said that in Kisii, people talked about regional government, then in Mombasa. I also saw Paranya, who is his governor, saying we are in Western, they also want it. But read Article 188, because these cultural issues, you can't keep saying you want Luhya nation and not want a lawful structure that makes you a nation. Because part of the problems in Africa, Debal, is the way we have these arbitrary boundaries. And you know, out from Berlin Conference, 1884, what we have here is a scenario where we want to reorganize society. Some of these counties, you see, particularly in the rural areas of marginalized areas, the problem why the governor of Wajir keeps running away from bullets is because the county is 1.5 clans. So the smaller one is feeling marginalized. Why can't we just allow ourselves to debate these issues? And whichever way they come, like Wamatangi says, we come with a document that we are all happy with. And I agree with Aaron that we may not have a top-down answer to all these things, but let us chew them so that we can move forward as a country.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Right, quite an engaging, delectable discussion we've had. And of course, we want to wind up with Boni Khalwale, right? Just very briefly, yeah?
Yes, here comes Mr. Afterthought. I think the question as to who is funding these processes is neither here or there. In fact, to me, it is superfluous. There is no political function that you can hold without a budget. In fact, we have got international NGOs that have been supporting political parties. The only bad thing is that nobody's being clear as to where the money is coming from. Where Amolo, so that you don't mislead our children, we have already had the best international practice to learn from and national practice. In 1787, Americans went to Philadelphia and had a constitutional convention. In 2005, Kenya went to Bomas, had such a thing. So the BBI, going forward, should take charge, go back to the driving seat, produce enough copies of what was presented at Bomas, let Kenyans read, and then invite them to regional or county conventions where members of the public will be given an opportunity to give their views. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your contributions. Today we shall continue that discussion about the regional government next week here on People and Politics. But nonetheless, I want to thank you for a very interesting show this morning. We want to leave you with this quote of the day before I hand over to my colleague Zainab to continue with AM Live Plus. It's all about leadership. Leadership is a privilege to better the lives of others. It is not an opportunity to satisfy personal greed. This is what Mwai Kibaki said. It's worth repeating, I think. Leadership is a privilege to better the lives of others. It's not an opportunity to satisfy personal greed. That is what the former president Mwai Kibaki said. Right. Zainab, she's here with me. Zainab, what is up? Your collective list. Good morning to you.
All right, so definitely we're looking at a number of stories. So the Senate, our eyes are traded there. Of course, the senators have a special sitting today on the impeachment of Governor Ferdinand Waititu. They want to see the grounds in which the MCAs really did file to, remove him. And also very interesting, we're going to have a little bit of a conversation on something that has been trending. So apparently there was a study done by the Busara Center for Behavioral Economics, which stated that 1 in every 5 female students in university, and they conducted a study of all, a section of university students in Nairobi, and found out that 1 in every 5 of them engage in sexual relationships with older men, which we know as sponsors, for of course favors and money and financial benefit. So we just want to converse around that and see really why this is trending and why it's becoming socially acceptable.
Thank you. Right. Thank you. Of course, that is up next on Live Plus. Don't go away. Zainab will take it away.
Eldoret Technical Training Institute. Registration for January, May and September 2020 intakes is ongoing. Apply now. Eldoret Technical Training Institute. Growing reputation.
Who are you, Carrie? Why do we look the same? Do I have a twin sister? Agatha! I'm 26 years old. You wouldn't know because you've been gone for so long. You are a worthless mother! Oh my goodness! I'm really sorry. Who are you? Why are there 3 of us here? I think now is the time to tell her the truth. Wait, what is she saying? I will look for my other sisters. From the picture, one of them looks rich. She's my twin sister, so I think that I deserve a part of their family's fortune.
The Lake Victoria is very important. It's a resource to the region.
77 ilikuwa samaki nyingi kabisa, kwa maana maji ilikuwa safi, na siku hizi hakuna samaki because of dirty water.
Hatukunywi maji, ni kama hii maji mbaki wanyama.
What we release back to the lake meets the regulatory standards.
Hii maji ilikuwa maji safi, na sasa hii huwezi fanya nayo kazi kwa maana ni mafi kila wakati.
Mimi siku hizi nimekuwa mtu very honest kabisa.
Honest indeed, si ndio? Ndio maana ulikuwa unanyemelea hapo ukitoka siku zako zimeisha.
Sasa wewe na vile tulikuwa na amani na upendo ile wakati ulikuwa umeenda, umekuja kutufuruga.
We decided to invite Sasha to hang out with us.
Kazi yote ya mtoto ni yako. Ulishe mtoto, uoshe mtoto, umlalishe na ufue nguo zake zote.
Every day, NTV News team moves you to the center of the action.
The security forces who took part in this operation.
Police are not taking anything to chance it.
Moves you to the heart of the story to witness and record history.
Rendering the declared results null and void.
Telling the story of Kenya.
The growing importance of border in Mandera.
Matatus will be on strike.
And beyond.
The politics in the United States capital.
It is the 7th edition of the Global Education taking place in Dubai.
When it comes to business, we crunch the numbers and unpack the detail with the latest information for your investment decision.
It's time to say goodbye to this note and karibu to this note.
In order for the manufacturing sector to be elevated from the ground.
Despite the government's promise to create at least 1.3 million jobs.
Moves you fast past the planes and trucks to bring you the triumphs and joys of our great men and women.
Moving stories that touch our hearts.
I didn't know that I could go back to school.
The Back to School program has brought hope to these young mothers.
NTV News. News that moves you.
The 3 sides of Anna.
Ana Lucia is not my lover, she's my girlfriend.
Excuse me, but married men don't have girlfriends.
I'm dying to see Santiago just to make sure he's all right, but nobody wants to help me. What's more, it's as if everyone's going against me.
Very soon the day will come. You'll see. When the one who will have to go away will be you and not me.
When this night is over, I guarantee that you're going to understand why you were never very happy with him. The 3 sides of Anna.
With Lipa na M-Pesa, you get more.
Lipa na M-Pesa.
Every 100 shillings spent on Lipa na M-Pesa earns you an entry into the draw. Do more with Lipa na M-Pesa.
Gari ndio hii Haya, kujeni tuangalie. Haya, ngeni muangalie.
You people have been found guilty of listening to Nation FM. Anto Naubinda. On that note, everybody in this matatu is being paid for fare today.
Tunakemea January.
Just move to more music and less talk. Nation FM will be rewarding all my 3s tuned in to Nation FM. Watch out for the team as we visit various parts of the county. Nominate a circle that tunes in using the hashtag JustMove. Tag us and we will pay your fare.
Let me call you back.
Kemea in January, only on Nation FM.
Lit 360.
Hey there, this is Crystal Asige.
Very baby, and I'm the storyteller. Ay. My name is Ben Sol. You're watching Lit 360.
The best thing to happen to the 254 is full of fashion, food, music, and of course, some fun.
You know me love pupa, eh? Toto kiboko.
Party after party. Party after party. After party after party.
Lit 360.
All that wrapped into one to give you all the juice, the sauce, and the tea, and get it all on camera for you.
Hili shamba ni lake bwana. Na amekuwa nalo zaidi ya miaka 15 hata kabla muwe mke wake.
Mbona unakimbelembele kuliko muuzaji mwenyewe?
Huna lolote wewe. Ufai shamba wala sokoni. Kazi ni kusumbua wale wanaotaka kukusaidia.
Hivi wewe ukipewa ruhusa kunisaidia si utaniangamiza?
Wewe mwambie Jabali aje nyumbani, aje ampose mwanangu Sonia. Na mimi nakuhakikishia kufikia kesho pesa zote unazozitaka zitakuwa ziko kwa akaunti ya benki yako.
With Lipa na M-Pesa, you get more.
Lipa na M-Pesa.
Every 100 shillings spent on Lipa na M-Pesa earns you an entry into the draw. Do more with Lipa na M-Pesa.
I hope hujakuja hapa kuturingia hiyo nyumba yako ya kijusuru penye unakotanga takataka.
Point of correction. Hiyo nyumba ni release.
Niko na mradi mwingine nataka kushughulikia. Sasa wewe unadai kwa ngapi hapa?
Mimi unafai kuuliza unadai mangapi?
Ukiingia hapa kwa hii gate, huko umeona pale pameandikwa na chokora salau.
Ai, serious ya witi. Kama walikuwa wameandika hivyo, na wewe ulikupaliwa acha hapa ndani.
Jinsi Jacob, unajua ni Crotari kwa mabwana wawili.
What about Crotas? Na Crotas je?
Ninakukanya kumuita mbebu. Katafuta machokora wenzako huko waite mbebu. Crotas. Sisaka kameenda tunaweza ongea.
Do I know you? Ndabishana na ile siku tawaga. Afadhali mimi nafaa kuoga mwili peke yake na niko sawa. Wewe unafaa kuoga mwili na akili na bado utafuta pesa.
Mkishika chakula yangu mnanawa mkono kwanza. Ama kuna place kunauzwa gloves hapa karibu?
Ya tujui sana, lakini nimesikia hapa chini kuna mahali panauzwa common sense.
All right, it is the 28th day of January 2020. Thank you so much for joining us. You're watching AM Live Plus. My name is Zainab Ismail. Of course, we'll be taking a look at stories making headlines across the country and beyond. We will have our reporters on the ground who will be bringing us up to speed with what is happening. On your screen, you can see we have Bridget Sungana, who is in Nakuru County. Oko Kusa is in Kisumu County. Martin Moura in Muranga County, as well as Janet Nyamwamu in Kisii County. They'll be giving us an update on what is happening in their respective regions. But we begin in Nakuru County. And Bridget Sungana, a very good morning to you. What is happening there? It's been quite chilly here in Nairobi.
Well, Zainab, it is a tragic morning for the people of Samburu County. We do understand that 14 people have died and 9 are admitted at the Nakuru Level 5 hospital after a banditry attack in Samburu County. Remember, last week the regional commissioner issued a shoot-to-kill order over the flare-ups of banditry in the region. And right now, this morning, we've tried to get in touch with him. He seems to be occupied, but he says he'll give us a detailed report in the course of the day regarding to the status of the situation right now. But right now, unconfirmed reports reports say that 14 people have been killed and 9 have been critically injured and are currently at the Nakuru Level 5 hospital. We are in touch with the medical superintendent there, and they'll be giving us updates in the course of the day. Also, the President, Uhuru Kenyatta, is expected at Salga for the opening, the grand and official opening of Simba Cement. And that's one of the industries that has set up shop in Salga, and this is one of the designated industrial zones in Nakuru County, as this county seeks towards being an industrial town. And this is also being egged on by the clean energy in Olkaria and at Menengai. So we do hope that this is going to activate or stimulate industrialization this side of the Rift Valley.
Thank you so much, Bridget Sangana there in Nakuru County. And away from Nakuru County, and of course that particular saddening news we'll be following up very closely. Let's now cross over live to Kisumu County, where we have Oko Kusa. Very good morning to you, Oko Kusa. What do we have from you from that part of the region?
Good morning, Zainab. In Kisumu, actually today we are focusing more in Siaya, where we have cases of police being accused of conducting or being reluctant actually to conduct investigations regarding alleged crimes committed against some of the residents. We have a planned protest or peaceful demonstrations by church leaders and residents who are condemning or sort of protesting that police are reluctant in investigating circumstances surrounding the disappearance of a bishop of Judea Church in Siaya, Roho Judea Church. So that will be happening today, this morning actually, and we'll be following it up. And still in Rarieda, that is in Siaya County, we have a case where a 17-year-old girl is accusing an assistant chief of raping her, and the family is demanding that police arrest the assistant chief, whom they say even after they had reported the incident to Aram police station is still walking free, is yet to be arrested, and therefore they're demanding some justice there. So we'll be following up on those two stories this morning, Zainab, and of course more.
All right, thank you so much, Okukusa, there with those particular stories. And away from that, Martin Mora is in Murang'a County. A very good morning to you, Martin. What is happening in Murang'a?
Thank you so much, Zainab. Yes, it's a wet Tuesday morning here from County 021. And just to bring our viewer to what we are following up from these counties, today the County Meteorological Office will be issuing a press briefing in reference to the ongoing off-season and rain and its impact on cropping calendar and post-harvest challenges in terms of harvesting and storage. Something else that we are following up on, this county for the second year in a row, it has emerged as one of the best counties that has seen 100% transition. Actually, it has surpassed 127% transition from primary to secondary school. We'll be seeking to talk to the education officials to tell us what has made it possible for the second year in a row that they have been able to see that over 100% of students have joined high school from primary school. Something else that we are following up on is an ongoing case at Murang'a High Court, where a city businessman, one by the name Mike Maina, has lost a property or a land worth 4 hectares here in Murang'a. The land is said to have been illegally acquired. That is a ruling that was made by the Environment Court yesterday. That is one of the stories. It has been a tussle between the businessman, the Nairobi tycoon, and the prison department here in Murang'a for that piece of land that is currently at Murang'a Town. The land is said that it was allocated to build a juvenile cell, but it was allegedly grabbed. Those are some of the few things that we'll be following up from Murang'a County. Back to you, Zainab.
All right, thank you very much, Martin Mora there from Murang'a County. And of course, we'll be taking a look at some of the stories he's mentioned. But away from that, in Kisii County, we have Janet Nyamwamu as well. A very good morning to you, Janet. What is happening in Kisii?
It's a good morning from here in Kisii, and I'm here in the Kisii Bureau offices, but a story that we are keeping tabs on and we are following is happening in Transmara, whereby 2 communities are fighting over a land border. The dispute has been going on, and some surveyors were sent there last year, and they demarcated the place, and everybody was told your place is this side, but the people there, the communities are disgruntled, and the Uasin Gishu and the Syria communities are the ones who are fighting over the border at the Enosain and Kararo area in Kilgoris, Transmara. The area chief of Enosain has been arrested, as I'm told, and several houses have been burnt, and some people have been injured, about 10 people, and they are recuperating in several hospitals, among them Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital. From this area, that's what we are going to be following up to see how the security and peace is going to be restored in that area between the two communities. Back to studio.
All right. Thank you very much, Janet Nyamamu in Kisii County. But also away from that, in Nyeri County, we do have Melita Oletenges, who's also on standby to bring us to speed with what is happening in the region. A very good morning to you, Melita. What can you tell us from that area?
Good morning to you, Zainab. Our focus today is on the Locust invasion in the neighboring Embu County. We are currently on our way there. We've had reports from farmers who are reporting that swarms of locusts entered the county from Kitui County, and they are ravaging their crops, and they're saying that the farmers there are largely affected. We are so far informed that the areas of Kiambere and Mutua Valley are the worst affected at the moment, and we are actually on our way there just to get the details of this invasion. So far, farmers are saying that some of their crops are millet and khat, the leaves of khat, which is commonly referred to as mogoka, are affected, and they're saying that these are swarms of locusts. If they are not contained, they are going to be counting losses in the coming days. So the situation there is worsening by the day, and of course we are also focusing on what the government will say in regards to this. Remember, so far we've had helicopters and fixed wings planes which are used to spray the locusts just to get rid of them, but so far we have not heard of any plan in Embu County, and that is why our focus is there today. And of course we will be giving you more detailed information once we get it. So for now, we are on our way to Embu, and we will be bringing you the story in our consecutive bulletins. Over to you, Zainab.
All right, thank you so much. There you have it, Melita Oletenges, who is in Nyeri County. And of course, some of those stories he'll be keeping us updated on. But also away from that, we have other stories making headlines nationally and internationally. But we also begin here in Nairobi, where the Senate is set to hold a special sitting to investigate the proposed removal from office of Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu, also known as Babayao. This will be an interesting debate to watch, as it already showed signs of divisions in the Senate along political affiliation lines, with the divisions in Jubilee Party being evident. Kiambu County Assembly voted to kick out the embattled governor. Also, this year's NGOs have started a launch. Of course, the sector in 2018-2019, the NGOs Coordination Board's Strategic Plan 2020-2022. Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government Fred Matiang'i is set to open the event. This week we'll also see the exhibitions as well as roundtable discussions on resource. Also away from that, today the Kenya Health Professional Society intends to issue a 7-day strike notice for its members. This, the leadership says, has been occasioned by the willful failure by county governments to promote health workers under the umbrella of KHPS. Well, also today we'll be taking a look at the Football Federation of Kenya, which will be holding its special general meeting where the members are to pass decisions on the upcoming elections. The FKF President Nick Mwendwa, NEC members and FKF delegates are expected at that particular meeting. But also moving on, we're keeping an eye on a number of stories making headlines, and we're looking out for developments on a number of things. First, we're monitoring the situation in Kasarani near Capedo in Turkana East, where an armed attackers shot and killed killed 3 people, including police officers, and left 14 others injured. The tension in the area is still on the rise, and we are monitoring that particular situation. And we are also keeping an eye on political developments in the country, where a section of Jubilee legislators announced plans to hold parallel Building Bridges Initiative rallies beginning February, with the first one slated for Nakuru on February 8th. The more than 170 MPs were holed up in a closed-door meeting in Naivasha since Sunday evening, discussing the ongoing BBI rallies, which they have taken issue with. And we're also keeping an eye on the locust invasion that has now spread to Tana River County, with locals in Buradhima village, Mbalambala area, reporting that the insects have cleared vegetation covering 3 kilometers since Sunday. In the past few days, the locusts have wreaked havoc on Muguka farms in Embu County, as authorities intensified aerial spraying to counter the menace. All right, and also on matters education, close to 100,000 students who set last year's KCPE are yet to join secondary school. This is according to Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha, following reports filed by regional and county education directors. Of course, CS Magoha noted that only 92% of the 1,083,456 candidates who set for the 2019 Kenya Certificate of Primary Education had so far enrolled to secondary schools. Will be able to hit the 100% transition mark as the government desires? We're keeping an eye on that as well. All right, now the impact here is being felt by all students at Capedo Mixed Secondary School. They sang a song decrying the endless killings, loss of parents, teachers, fellow students and police officers, and of course claiming that they have been rendered hostage. The residents in the area say they cannot move in and out of Capedo without armed escort. Here is the song they sang at their parade as their school anthem. And of course, Bridget Sangana is on that particular beat, and she will be bringing us to speed with exactly what is happening on that particular side, as well as our other reporters in the counties and everything that is happening in that region. But also, this morning we'll be having a conversation, and joining me in studio is Esther Mbao, who is a psychologist. Is that all right?
Yes.
Right. And also as well as Sheila Brenda, who's a journalism student at the Technical University of Kenya. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, today's beat, we will be discussing something that there was a study done by the Busara Center for Behavioral Economics, and what they found out was very interesting, that 1 in every 5 female university students engage in sexual relationships with older men for benefit, of course, mainly favors and financial benefit. And of course, this has created an interesting dynamic. And of course, it's a trend that we've seen of the past couple of years, but it is sort of becoming socially acceptable in some manner. So maybe I'll just begin with you, Esther.
Yes.
Is it the fact that we have the societal factors that are there are the ones influencing and sort of like fueling these kind of relationships, and are they acceptable in the society today?
Okay, let me begin by saying there's nothing new under the sun.
Right.
This trend has been there. Even if you speak to like our mothers, it's just that they weren't very vocal about it, but they'd tell you if they're in college or in universities that there were actually girls who'd still go out with sponsors. It's just that we've actually coined the name from a sugar daddy. Before it was a sugar daddy, to now it's a sponsor.
Right.
But it's nothing new under the sun. But what is actually propagating it is that we're in the information age. Information is at the touch of a button. So if someone is able to post a story and people get to like it and it gets to trend and we get to fuel it, that is what is growing the trend. But it is not a socially acceptable decision for most of the girls. If you read even the study, it says 80% of those girls who are actually with the sponsors actually feel humiliated and embarrassed to say that they have a sponsor. So it's not socially accepted because we know these sponsors, most of them, majority are married. We know we're in Africa. We value the institution of marriage despite everything that is happening. So when this comes out, the girl is the one who's actually looked down upon. It's never about the man. It's the girl who is told you're doing the wrong thing, the one you're messing up someone's family, yet it takes two to tangle in this situation.
Yes. And we'll come back to some of the, of course, contributing factors even outside that information era. But Sheila, you're a student at the Technical University of Kenya, and the study was conducted among 252 participants who were aged between 18 and 24, and I feel like you fall in that bracket. And you interact with your colleagues and everything. As a university student, is this prevalent, and is this something that you see and hear about?
Yeah, it is. Actually, it is prevalent in the universities, and we see such happening every day. I think it's fueled by the need of the girls to want a good life. Yeah, you know, with social media, as she has said, we see on the internet the way other people's Instagram pages look flashy and all, and these ladies want to also look that way. And so they end up doing such things for them to be able to have such a lifestyle like those they see on social media. So it's something that
you can actually say that this is prevalent. It's something that is actually ongoing. Is it sort of acceptable within the your peers?
It is not it's not acceptable. It's not, definitely not.
But so, like, okay, of course, the study also conducted, like what Esther's talked about. They feel stigma. They feel like it's something they should be ashamed of for those, of course, engaging in such kind of relationships. But at the end of it all, you find that these young women are portraying a life that, you know, as a student, you can definitely not afford. But they're not hiding it.
Okay, yeah, most do not hide, and most tend to lie. They have rich uncles, they have rich aunties sponsoring them. So it is something, you know, when there's a certain way I can see you dress as a university student, or you cannot Uber to school daily. There's just some things that will make people know the kind of lifestyle you're living is not being sponsored by your parents, especially if they know you're not that rich or that financially well. But most of them, in as much as these things can be noted and can be seen, most of them tend to lie that they have rich uncles, rich aunties. They never accept that they have an old man somewhere sponsoring them.
We're in an era where we are looking for likes. So we do anything for the likes on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, on social media. So these girls are looking at, what is the cost for me to get the likes? What's the cost of me looking like I'm the it girl, you know? And it's always been the trend. It's always been there. Girls between 18 to 25, they want to be the coolest. They want to look the most beautiful, you know. They want to look like the trendiest. But at the end of the day, you ask yourself, am I willing to pay the cost? In as much as this is not socially acceptable, am I willing to pay for the likes? And right now, people are doing anything for the likes. You know, we've gone wild because of social media. Instead of going back to reevaluate, what are my values? What do I want at this point in time in my life? And is the cost worth it? Because there's a lot of psychological impact with the cost that you're paying for by having these sponsors.
Yes. And we'll come back to that in just a moment. But also something that came out from the study was lack of what they termed was financial support that pushed them to an extent where they had relationships with older men for that, you know, financial stability. Is this fueling, you know, the prevalence of this relationship?
Yes, finances are fueling this, and when that, like I said, when that age where we want to look flashy, we want to look like we're with it, so we do anything for that. Look at the rates of corruption even. It's because we want this money. So even the girl is saying at the end of the day, I'd rather be in this relationship for me to be able to look flashy and for my Instagram page to keep trending and to keep getting the likes. So financial gain is one of the things. However, we are also a very instant generation. We are a microwave generation. We want things here and now. Instead of looking and seeing, in my life stage, even the kind of life I'm trying to live, is it normal? You know, does it go in tandem with where I'm supposed to be? If I'm in school, how am I affording this flashy lifestyle? You know, even if it's my parents financing it. I think we need to go back to the value system of building something, allowing it to grow, and then you enjoying the benefits of it in the long run. You don't plant maize today and harvest it the next day.
Right.
But that's what this generation wants. They want to plant the maize today, and by evening they have it ready and ripe,
Right.
which is not realistic.
Which is not. All right, Brenda, even to add on that, of course, and part of what the study also revealed was the fact that young women apparently expect money in exchange for sex, even from their boyfriends or casual acquaintances and not necessarily sponsors. Is it something you also see within the group or your schoolmates and colleagues?
One thing I'll talk concerning that is that there are things we have normalized in the society that shouldn't be normalized.
True.
Like we know, we have put that concept in our minds that for me to be able to get something from you, I have to give you something in return.
Right.
So that is why for a lady, even if it's just a normal relationship, if the boyfriend gives her money, she thinks that he expects something in return. There's some of the things we have normalized in this society right now, that for me to give you this, I have to get this. For me to get this from you, I have to give you this.
So everything has
True.
been commercialized.
True. Yes.
There is no that relationship we used to have back then. We know when it was just the love and support and commitment without any financial gain from it.
No, as a society, we've mixed up all our values, and our value systems have generally moved from what is about being a basic human, decent being to being about things and not people.
Yeah.
So everything has been commercialized, like you said, and we've normalized it to the extent that for me to love you, you have to give me money. But at the end of the day, that's not the psychological need that we have, even as women. Our psychological need is acceptance, appreciation, and to feel secure.
Right.
But what we've done as a society, we've put money as the currency for this acceptance, for the security, and for the appreciation.
Right.
Yes.
And when it comes to now these young women trying to form relationships later on in their lives, once this is over, because usually these kinds of relationships are just short-term, sort of, most of them.
Yes.
So then how does that affect the relationships they enter into later on in their lives?
Okay. One, they'll still keep expecting the same money because I've been getting money from this man.
Right.
So that's the basic foundation of, with any other man, expect you to keep financing my high lifestyle. However, psychologically, this man has been using you. Let's be very realistic. When this sponsor comes to look for you, there's a need he's trying to meet. And what he does, he meets this need by giving you the financial gain.
Right.
But you don't go in clear in terms of what do I want from this relationship. And when this person uses you and they leave you empty, it brings a lot of self-esteem issues, it brings a lot of emotional disturbance, and eventually this person is left quite empty. And so they try to fill this emptiness with more things outside there. Instead of knowing that what you need to fill inside can only be found within. It cannot be found outside.
Right.
So this person is left like a doormat. You know the way you can use a doormat and you leave it dirty? You need to clean it up first, work on it, and maybe reuse it. And if you don't do that, it just gets worn out and it no longer has use.
Right.
So emotionally, there's a lot of even bitterness, anger, because this person used you and left you. At some point, it's a sponsor who ends up cutting off this relationship because for him, he has a family most times, or he's thinking, my use for you is long gone. So this person is left very bitter, angry, with a lot of vengefulness even, but a lot of self-esteem issues and a lot of self-worth that has been drained away from them.
Right.
Yeah.
And Brenda, even on the same, I mean, would you say probably we lack the right mentorship for the young girls? Because the moment you finish high school, you immediately enter, university or college, but then there isn't really probably the right mentorship for you to move forth and sort of be able to shape your life the way you want to. Do you feel we miss that?
I feel we do, especially the period when someone has finished high school to the period they join university,
Right.
it's normally a very huge gap in between. And we've also been made to believe that university life is very different.
Right.
So in this period, if the young lady will not be mentored well, if she'll not be under some awareness to be told this and this and this, or to be given the moral values that are needed, most of them end up going to university, and because the parents are not there, they end up getting into the wave and they get lost.
Right. Yes. Even on the mentorship issue,
yes,
this is quite a big issue, because we do not have the right mentors to sort of help the young girls and young men as well navigate through these kinds of life challenges.
Yes.
Do you agree?
I agree to it to some extent,
Right.
but I need to emphasize that values begin to start being instilled
Right.
from as early as 5 years. So what you do with this child between 5 and 18 really determines the 3-4 years they will spend in the university.
Right.
If you've not been taking time to build a value system that they can stand on solidly and not be waived by society or by peer pressure, then this child would be able to wade through this university phase very effectively. But if you've not been doing that, and then at 18, that's when you're trying to become a bit firm or a bit tough and saying these are the values we stand for, it might not work at the end. So we do need mentorship, but mentorship needs to start from a very early age.
All right.
Not just
so
after
what you're saying is
school.
probably, and I've seen this maybe a couple of times, where some people would say that the experiences that they've had when they were younger, and not necessarily, you know, getting the right moral guidance, but the probably lack of a father figure in the
Yes.
house, or lack of something in the house, would then end up pushing them towards this.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. The psychological impact of not having one parent present, or not having a figure to replace and meet that need that we have as human beings for this particular parent, it does have an impact on this young person eventually, especially when they're trying to identify who they are at the age of 18 to around 25 there. So yes, the lack of a father or a mother, because we know even right now sponsorship has gone to the young men and to the older women.
And we're actually coming
Let's
back
be
to
very
that.
honest.
That was my next point actually. Right. Yes,
Can
Brenda.
I add on that?
Sure.
And on adding on that, the issue of having a father figure.
Right.
There's a research that was conducted on fatherlessness is the issue, is the reason why we're even having depression cases and all these issues in the society.
Right.
I actually have a friend who she has never grown up with a father. And so to her, she seeks this kind of approval from the older men, because when the rest of her friends tell her, my dad bought me a phone,
Right.
my dad took her shopping, my dad did this and that, she has never had that in her life, and she wants that. So she's seeking that from that old man, because he'll buy her shopping, he'll buy her the phone. So she'll feel like the way their dads are buying the phones, the things for them, so I can also look at this man as my dad. And to her, she doesn't see that as a sexual exchange or anything. Actually, she will tell you, no, the same way your dad provides, I look to him as a father. So it is an issue.
It is a basic human need for us to both have the mother and father to bring us up until the age of around 18 years. That's how the law of nature was created. So this thing of you saying I can raise my child without a male or a female figure, that does not go by the law of nature. And you cannot defy the law of nature the same way you cannot defy the law of gravity.
Right.
So these children actually end up looking for that basic need from these sponsors. It could be either the male or the female, but it is a need, and it is a genuine need. So what I actually tell parents at this age, start dating your children as young as 5 years. If you're a mother, take your children on dates as young as 5. It could be very basic dates. For the fathers, you need to be the voice of reason and the voice of affirmation for your children from as young as 5 years.
Right.
Yes.
But I guess also something that a lot of people are not aware of is the fact that these young women also put themselves at a risk of a lot of abuse, from emotional, physical, as well as mental abuse. Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct, because this person has an upper hand.
Right.
He's giving you what you need.
So you're in a vulnerable situation at this particular point.
Yes, at this point, you're the vulnerable one.
Right.
There's not much you can do. If he calls you and tells you, on Saturday we're going to Naivasha, and you had other plans, you have to cancel.
Right.
Because you're under his mercy.
Right.
And he's using this monetary gain to keep you under his authority and under his power.
Right.
So yes, there is a lot of emotional, physical, and verbal abuse that takes place. And this abuse comes back to torment this girl years later.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And Brenda, speaking on the same, because something that we probably skipped a little bit is young men are also involved.
Yes.
And they're also what some would call them also victims. I don't know if they're victims because this is a choice they've made to be in a relationship with probably an older woman. But is this something that is also happening? Of course, a lot of focus is on the women because a lot of young women are doing this, but young men are also doing this.
Yes.
Do you agree?
I do agree. Actually, I think it's 50-50.
Oh, really?
I think it is. It's just because we tend to put the issue of men under the carpet. Yes. But it's 50-50. These young men in universities also have female or women, older women who sponsor them. Yes. So who sponsor their lifestyle, who sponsor the things they do. So it's just that I think we've made the issue of female sponsorship on the male sponsorship on the ladies' side so vocal that we've forgotten that the men also are victims of that.
Right.
Yes.
But Esther,
yes,
the other dynamics the same when it comes to the young females in these relationships and the young men in these relationships, are they the same?
The dynamics could be a bit different. Some could be the same, but we need to understand that in terms of human sexuality, for the male, sexual favors can be very physical, can never be emotional.
So
but
they
for the
do
woman,
not invest
yes, they
into
may
that
not invest emotionally on it. But for the female, there's always an emotional attachment to any sexual activity. So for the woman, they have to be there emotionally, and that's why eventually they end up with a lot of abuse and a lot of self-esteem issues. For the man, they have to be very clear also. If they invest emotionally, they will also come out hurt and injured, because at the end of the day, this woman is also just looking for sexual favors, and it's for a period of time. So both ends, both parties, they do end up living less, what do I say? They live less than they were before. Their self-worth is below. In terms of their time, they may have wasted a few years where they would have gotten a credible life partner. And even in the eyes of the society, if people knew about it, their self-image is taken away.
But then it affects the women more than the men.
Yes,
definitely.
It does. Yes, it does.
So Brenda, even with the same, and of course, you also have the male colleagues in your school, and you say this is 50-50. So you see this happening. But was this happening in the past, or is this something that has grown right now? Is it something that's now sort of cool? Or what was happening back then and now?
I'll go. There's a statement she said. I'll go back to that. These things have been there. It's just that with the age of social media, we tend to beautify these names. Back then, we used to have the issue of sugar daddies, sugar mummies. Right now, we call them sponsors. And you know, we tend to make sponsors look better than sugar mommy, sugar daddy. Maybe in 10 years to come, they'll have another name that will justify it. So it's not. They're just trying to make it look cooler, but it's just the same thing that has been there even before. Right now, sugar mummies, on the men's side, they're called Ben 10s.
Ben 10s.
Yeah, Ben 10s, you get. So it's something that is there, but we're just looking for beautiful names to beautify these.
So this is also attributed to financial support for the men as well?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Actually, I've heard of men who go to those they have girlfriends, but then they cannot like take their girlfriends to dates. They cannot provide for their girlfriends, so they have sponsors, these female sponsors, for them to be able to provide and cater for their girlfriends. So it's their finances.
I mean, and what are the risks? I mean, Esther, when you have a cycle or a circle where you have one has a relationship with a younger woman and has a relationship with an older woman for financial benefit, and she has a relationship. I mean, what does this mean for society?
Definitely health-wise, physically, let me be very realistic. The chances of you catching or contracting HIV is very high, because I'm not sure if people are able to have these candid conversations in terms of protection. This girl cannot really defend herself and say, this is what we need to use to protect myself, because this man has the upper hand. If it is for the woman also, who has a Ben 10, the Ben 10 won't say much. Yet at the end of the day, he'll be with this woman and then go back to the girlfriend. So in terms of bringing down the prevalence rates of HIV, it's very, very difficult. Emotionally, I will say this: if you have been abused before, chances of you becoming an abuser in the future are likely to take place. Actually, 80 to 90% of you becoming an abuser are very high. So there's that cycle of abuse that takes place. So you'll find this Ben 10, when they become old, they also want to become a sponsor.
Right.
And the things that were done against them unconsciously, if they were not nice, they will do to this young girl.
Right.
And so what happens? The cycle continues. And this woman at some point might also become an abuser and say, you know what, at this point, because I'm doing so well, let me get a Ben 10. They will also know I need to. Now it's my time to enjoy life the way my sponsor was enjoying life. So that cycle of abuse is
Then it
likely
goes
to take
on and
place.
on and on.
If there's abuse in terms of physical, it would actually mitigate to other people as well, not
Right.
only into the cycle of sponsorship, but to other relationships, this abuse would take place as well.
Right,
Yes.
right. And maybe just to mention some of the reactions from people on social media, on our Twitter handle at NTV Kenya, hashtag #MLiveNTV, T. Manyara saying, it's just a mindset, the way you set your mind basing your issues on different phenomena, that's what definitely happens to you. John Otieno saying, the sponsor's error can be attributed to the growing peer pressure from fellow students to live large while in campus. Parents have failed to shape up their children to sail against these pressures and live according to their standards basic. We have John Mwalago saying young men under pressure also and are looking for aunties or Haria. At Jared Onguti saying the young men and women are driven with money, but women are emotionally higher than men.
Yes.
That's why the young girls, go for sponsors. Parents should share with their kids and guide them and support them fully. So of course, parents have been told to take a primary role in their children's life. Maybe just to end, your last comments as a university student, and of course taking a look at the fact that you really need to move forth and shape your life in a certain way. What advice would you give to your fellow students?
One thing that I've learned in life is that a blessing given too soon is a blessing taken too soon. So if you get too soon what you're not supposed to get, it will again go too soon, and you'll remain wandering, and you'll remain in the same state you were before. So just work for what you want in life. Be patient. There are steps. In life, there are rules to life. There are steps you have to undertake. You don't just wake up today and become a millionaire tomorrow. You don't wake up today and have a good life tomorrow.
Right.
So these things have to be worked for. Then do not look at what other people are doing. Have your own ways, have your own standards that you've set, that no matter how the wave will come, this is what I want. This is the direction I am taking. So if you are assertive with yourself as a young student in campus, or a young man or a young woman, you will know that even if 50 are doing and I'm the 51st in that group, I will not, because I know what I want.
Right.
I am assertive, and I know something that is given to me too soon will be taken away too soon.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And Esther, your parting shot on these young people and how to really navigate through this.
We keep saying the society, the society, the society.
Right.
The society is me and you and the viewer right now. So you as the society, you need to ask yourself, in my part, where I am at this point in time, what am I doing in my role, in my different capacities, to ensure that I'm not propagating the wrong narrative? Because we are the propagators of the narratives. When a WhatsApp comes, I can choose to forward it or not forward it. When a story is illuminated, we can choose to highlight it, or we can choose to highlight the correct stories.
Right.
But even as I go back to the individual, what am I doing myself,
Right,
In terms of the sponsorship phenomenon, it will still be there. It's been there, it will still be there. But the more we keep illuminating it, the bigger it becomes a bigger elephant in the room.
All right.
So what do we choose to illuminate as a society?
Fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Esther Mbao, psychologist, and Sheila Brenda, journalism student at the Technical University of Kenya. Thank you so much for joining us this morning to have this conversation. Very pertinent. And of course, tuachane na Auntie Waharia, and of course, the other men, the sponsors and everything. Anyway, but it's still here, it's with us, so we have to deal with it. Also, just going back to one of the stories, of course, you're keeping a very close eye on, is on the armed attackers have shot dead 3 people, including police officers, and have injured 14 other people in Capedo in Turkana East in the latest ambush in that area. The bodies of the 3 were taken to Baringo County Referral Hospital morgue. 9 of the injured were taken to a hospital in Nakuru, while the other 5 are still in Capedo. Now, an unknown number of bandits attacked the truck, which was on its way back to Lomelo at 5 p.m. and was carrying road workers and police officers who were providing security to the workers. The driver, a police officer, was shot dead on the spot, while the identity of the others who were slain is yet to be confirmed. The security officers had to battle for more than 4 hours before being taken to the hospital in the night along the dangerous roads where armed bandits had paid last ambushes on civilians and security vehicles. Residents in the area calling on the government to improve the security in the area.
Tueskotie askari wa escort sisi kutoka Chumolingot mpaka Capedo, na sisi ni wa Kenya.
Kukaa kwangu hapa naona shida mingi ambayo yanatukabili. Kusafiri ni ngumu. Kutoka hapa mpaka Margat ni Mungu. Kurudi tena ni Mungu. Wapokota ajali hata askari anarusha tu risasi. Kama askari na kufa ama ni sisi tumekufa kama sungura.
All right, like I said, that's definitely a story we'll be keeping a very close eye on, and we'll be bringing you all the details in our subsequent bulletins. But right now, I'm joined by Fidel Maitia, who's a basketball analyst. But of course, Fidel, first of all, the world has been shocked by the death of the legend, the one and only Kobe Bryant. What does this mean for you?
I mean, I wouldn't want to be here talking about Kobe Bryant today, to be honest.
Right. This came a very huge shock for you, right?
Very huge shock. People would say he was on his second act in terms of life.
Right.
Just retired after playing 20 years. Just the other day, felt like the other day, 2016. A guy who sacrificed a lot for the game and elevated the game to where it is today. Part of a group of players who've done that. And for him to have worked so hard for 20 years, it feels like a waste. Right. He had his second act to go. He was producing movies, children's books.
He was coaching his daughter's team.
Exactly, spending time with his family, because as most people know, professional athletes don't really have the time to spend with their families. So it's a really big shame in terms of what has happened.
What does this mean for the basketball industry? Not just the basketball industry, but the sporting world itself?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of sadness, but at the same time, there's a lot of celebration because of what he did. And I think people will take this as inspiration in their lives because of his work ethic. This guy really worked hard. Apart from just being a very talented athlete, he really worked hard at his craft. And this has done more for the game and more for the guys who are coming up. And you hear people saying, you know, you mourn people who are thousands and thousands of miles away, celebrities or people who might not know. But as I read somewhere today, I can't remember where, but that is the highest form of compassion a human being can show if you mourn for somebody you didn't know, because of the inspiration we got from him.
What is the most remarkable thing you personally can remember about Kobe?
It brings a smile to my face. I guess maybe 2006. Scoring 81 points against Toronto Raptors, the second amount of points ever scored in a game. Apart from that, 1998, in terms of the All-Star appearance, playing one-on-one against Michael Jordan. Those kinds of moments will stay with me. Will stay with most players who admired, or athletes, or former players, or fans who admired the guy. So, I think it's just a small part in a bigger body of work, if you will.
But your last remarks, and why do you think he is a legend?
Man, I think, I don't know, you know, when he came into the draft in 96 as the 13th pick, nobody thought he'd be special. He was a very special high school player, but no one thought he'd elevate to where he reached. And just coming in as the second coming, if you will, after Michael Jordan. People saw something in him, his work ethic especially, just working hard at his craft, winning championships, 5 in total, alongside players like Shaquille O'Neal, Pau Gasol. So that in itself really inspired a lot of young people, a lot of people of this generation and generations of the past. I'd say he's, just maybe to quote Ice Cube as well, I'd say he's a young guy I really admired. He's younger than me at his passing. 41, yeah. So it's very rare to find an older person admiring a younger person, but at the same time, he was that kind of guy, charismatic, really talented, and really
family-oriented.
Family-oriented. It's something positive that people can take from this. Spend time with your family. Like this death, what it has done, basically it said, reach out to somebody you haven't talked to in a while. Reach out to people you love. Tell them that you love them. So, because you never know, your time is here for a short while. I mean, 41, very young age.
And I mean, at 41 years, and of course, a legend, and has left a fantastic legacy and an inspiration to so many people. Thank you so much, Fidel, for this. And it has definitely sent shockwaves, not just in the NBA, but across the world. So this is where we finish our AM Live Plus. Thank you so much for joining us. But before I leave, of course, we will be taking at stories, of course, what has been happening in history as well. And just taking a look at on this particular day in 1949, the Duke of York School was founded by colonial governor Philip Ewan Mitchell. The actual bell from HMS Duke of York can still be seen mounted at the front school parade ground between the school chapel and the hall. The first students were briefly housed at the then British colonial governor's house, which is the current State House, as they waited for the school's completion. The founding principal was R.H. James. The school, which was very well known for its rugby prowess, was in later years nicknamed Changes. The referral to old students of the school changed from the phrase Old Yorkists to Libons, and in some instances, Changerians. On this day in 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger explodes just after liftoff, killing the 7 astronauts on board. This was the 10th trip for Challenger and included a teacher from New Hampshire among the astronauts as part of the New Teacher in Space project. The launch was shown live on CNN, and many schools set up televisions for children to watch due to the involvement of the teacher in the shuttle. Also today, this year in history, back in 1937, testing of the Rolls-Royce began. The first model that appeared on the streets a few years after World War II ended was the Rolls-Royce Silver Wraith. The car manufacturer has built an enduring reputation for development and manufacture of engines for defense and civil aircraft. And on the 28th of January of 2014, Hong Kong announced that it will kill 20,000 chicken in order to stop the spread of the H7N9 bird flu. The culling was announced after the virus had been found in chickens that had been sent to China. A 3-week ban on live chicken importation was also put in place. All right, and that brings us to the end of our bulletin this hour. Many thanks for keeping us company and, of course, being part of the conversation. A lot that we're lining up for you later on in our subsequent bulletins. You do not want to miss that. We're also trading our eyes at the Senate, where senators are, of course, on a special sitting to hear the impeachment charges against Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu. We'll be giving you all the details of the happenings at the Senate. My name is Zainab Ismail. Have yourself a lovely day.